Chapter 3497. Since Lin Yi's rumor hadn't been dispelled, there had to be a reason behind it. He could pretend to be pretentious if he had nothing better to do, but if he really met Lin Yi, he wouldn't want to risk his life. When they were at the Mystic and Earth class, perhaps some people would still be unconvinced and feel that they were the strongest. But when they reached the Sky class, everyone became more cautious. After all, this strength was hard to come by, and no one was willing to fight to the death with others without any grievances. Lu Taishao was thinking this way. Those who were obviously weaker than him, such as Xiao Ran, he could step on them without fear. But Lin Yi's strength was still unclear. It was said that he could instantly kill a Sky class full circle master, so he was probably a full circle master. With this kind of strength, Lu Taishao didn't dare to be rash. Lin Yi looked at him, a little amused, and brought Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing to buy food. Maybe it was on purpose. Han Jingjing whispered something to Wang Xinyan, and so the two of them revealed their Sky class full-circle late-stage strength at the same time. This stunned Lu Taishao, who had dodged to the side, and he was so scared that he almost knelt down. How are these Lin Yi's family? They were clearly two top practitioners who came to participate in the trial. Wasn't he just too fucking powerful? Thinking of this, Lu Taishao didn't hesitate and quickly said, "Ladies, please." Haha, I was afraid that someone else would take the lead, so I specially helped you to reserve seats. Please order. Xiao Ran was speechless as he watched from the side, but this was the first time he felt Lin Yi's power. He could make someone as arrogant as Lu Taishao submit. For better or worse, he and Tu Xiaoshou were at the great perfection of the heaven rank. When they saw Lin Yi, they felt a bit terrified. Now that they saw that Lin Yi was also at the great perfection of the heaven rank, they were scared to the point that they regretted saying those words. Fortunately, Lin Yi didn't care about it. Otherwise, he really hadn't participated in the trial yet. He was crippled by someone. Although the Five Elements sect had a rule that private fights were not allowed during the period of staying in the inn before the trial. But rules are dead. People are alive. Would the rules of the Five Elements sect really apply to Lin Yi, who could kill several experts of the Five Elements sect in one breath? Lu Taishou was very suspicious. He calmly retreated with Tu Xiaoshou, but when he passed by Xiao Ran's table, suddenly he saw Xiao Ran looking up at him and immediately became angry. "What the fuck are you looking at? Are you looking for a beating?" Xiao Ran was startled and immediately lowered his head in fear. He was just casually looking. Who would have thought that Lu Taishou would directly vent his displeasure on him? But even though he knew this, he didn't dare to refute, and could only say, "I don't dare, don't dare. I think you are very daring, simply too daring. Are you looking at me as a joke?" Lu Taishou finally found a point. How could he give up so easily? He didn't dare to provoke Lin Yi, but this Xiao Ran was no problem. A peak late-stage, heaven-rank rogue cultivator. Dealing with him was simply a piece of cake. I just felt the aura of the great perfection of the heaven rank, so I looked up. Xiao Ran smiled bitterly. "You didn't? I think you are very talented. Simply too talented." Lu Taishou slammed the table and said, "You motherfucker, stand up." Xiao Ran's heart surged with humiliation. The Xiao family had been in decline for many years, even to the point that it was lower than an ordinary family. If it wasn't for his luck, he wouldn't have been able to cultivate all the way to the peak late-stage heaven rank. He planned to use the heaven rank trial to amaze the world, ascend to the heaven rank island, and then come back to revive the Xiao family. Before the Xiao family was revived, all grievances could be endured. He took a deep breath and slowly stood up. But at this time, just as Lu Taishou was about to flip out, an accident happened. Lin Yi turned his head, looked at Lu Taishou indifferently, and said, "Brother Xiao Ran, I ordered a little too many dishes. Help me get them." Xiao Ran was stunned, and then a look of gratitude flashed across his face. Lin Yi helped him out, and he didn't believe that Lin Yi's group of 3 couldn't get the dishes. Lin Yi nodded to him, indicating for him to come over. Actually, Lin Yi didn't want to form a faction before, but seeing Xiao Ran being bullied, Lin Yi decided to lend a hand. After all, Xiao Ran had kindly reminded him before. Even if he didn't need Xiao Ran's reminder, it was still Xiao Ran's good intentions, and helping Xiao Ran now was just a small effort for Lin Yi. So Lin Yi spoke up for him. Of course, Lin Yi didn't have any intention of becoming friends with Xiao Ran at the moment. Before they landed on Heaven Tier Island, Lin Yi had to keep a low profile as much as possible. Lu Tai Xiao was a little stunned, but he immediately understood that Lin Yi was helping Xiao Ran. He sighed helplessly and walked out of the restaurant with two Xiao Xiao. He didn't have the face to stay there any longer, and even though his heart was filled with hatred, there was nothing he could do. Want to take revenge on Lin Yi? He didn't dare, and he didn't have the strength to do so. Since that was the case, he could only leave quietly and see if he could cause some trouble for Lin Yi during the trial. He was a vengeful person, and while he seemed to have given in on the surface, his heart wasn't. If he had the chance, he would definitely teach Lin Yi a bloody lesson. However, just as he was about to walk out of the restaurant and take a stroll, he heard a commotion at the entrance of the inn. Two challengers opened the door to the inn, one on the left and one on the right. Then, the two of them walked in, one in front of the other, arrogantly. These two were the people Lin Yi hadn't seen in a long time, Zhang Naipeo and Zhong Pingliang. Zhong Pingliang was in front, and Zhang Naipeo was behind. No matter how you looked at it, Zhong Pingliang was Zhang Naipeo's boss, as well as the founder of the Everyday and Everyday sect. What's worth mentioning was that after a period of tempering his soul and body, Pingliang had finally digested the original Mad Dragon Master's inheritance and stepped into Sky-class late phase peak once more. He was planning to use this trial as an opportunity to break through to Sky-class full circle in one go, near the 5 Malevolent Dragons Cave, where the 5 Malevolent Chi was abundant. Zhang Naipeo, on the other hand, had successfully broken through his heart's demon and stepped into Sky-class late phase peak. He was a true top-class master now, and he had two goals for this trial. The first was to train his ability to absorb and resist the 5 Malice Chi, and the second was to work with Zhong Pingliang to kill Lin Yi. Chapter 3498. At this time, Dongfang Badeo had already successfully promoted to the peak of the late stage of Heaven class, and he also wanted to use this trial to stimulate his potential under the pressure of the 5 Evils Chi and break through to the peak of Heaven class in one fell swoop. In fact, most of the people who came here, including the inheritors, wanted to rely on the strong pressure of the 5 Evils Chi to break through the limit. Ordinary cultivators wanted to break through themselves, and inheritors wanted to strengthen their inheritance. The so-called 5 Evils Chi was actually a kind of demonic Chi similar to the spiritual Chi of heaven and earth, but not the same. The spiritual Chi of heaven and earth was universal, but the 5 Evils Chi was not. The 5 Evils Chi was a mixture of the 5 attributes of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. This kind of Chi was called demonic Chi because it had 5 attributes. Ordinary cultivators couldn't absorb it at all. When absorbing their own attributes, they also had to absorb the Chi of the other 4 attributes. In this way, they would go crazy, and in the worst case, they would explode and die. Of course, in the 5 Evils wildland, this situation was not serious. As long as one didn't practice, there would be no problem. But in the 5 Evils mountains, it was different. Here, even if you didn't practice, the 5 Evils Chi would whiz into your body, so it was not something you could just ignore. In this way, you must go all out to fight against these 5 Evils Chi, resist the pressure, break through the limit in the battle with the 5 Evils Chi, and improve your strength. And the inheritors were the same. The inheritors also used their own strong 5 elements to resist the 5 Evils Chi, to achieve the purpose of strengthening their own inheritance. In addition, the only ones who were not affected were the 5-element cultivators like Lin Yi and a few demonic cultivators, such as Zhang Naipeo. This guy practiced the wasp absorption art and could absorb all kinds of Chi, demonic Chi, and poison to turn into his own Chi. In the past, he practiced in a group of poisonous bees and poisons, and now he was called a mobile detoxification pill by the everyday and everyday sect. If the food was poisonous, he could find Zhang Naipeo to suck it. If anyone was poisoned, he could find Zhang Naipeo to suck it. Therefore, in the Five Evils Wild Land, Zhang Naipeo was not only unaffected, but could also practice. This was also the reason why Zhang Naipeo shone in the trial of the Heavenly Elixir sect last time. And Dongfang Badeo was alone, and he also knew the danger of this trial. And so, he met two masters from the everyday and everyday sect on the way. He hated Zhang Naipeo for killing his grandson, but he didn't care. However, Dongfang Badeo was a scheming man. He knew that he wasn't Zhang Naipeo's opponent at all. He didn't even need to fight, so he chose to surrender directly. He would become Zhang Naipeo and Pinliang's lackey. In comparison, he hated Lin even more. After all, Dongfang Bushu had been killed in the trial. Life and death in the trial was up to fate, so he could not blame the other trial takers. However, it was different for Lin Yi. That was in the secular world. Furthermore, he had killed more than one expert from the Dongfang family. The Dongfang clan previously had a total of 10 Heaven Stage experts, and 6 of them died a violent death. As a result, only Dongfang Badeo and Dongfang Jinxing were left. The other 2 were not even from the Dongfang clan itself, but were guest elders. The Dongfang clan directly fell from the top ancient sect to the altar. One had to know that, except for the Ice Palace and the Five Elements sect, most of the ancient sects and families only had 2 or 3 Heaven Stage masters. They only had 2 or 3 Sky class masters. For example, the Dark Palace and the ancient House Feng only had 1 or 2 Sky class masters before Meng Yao and Feng Shipian broke through. Therefore, the Dongfang clan was the existence of the military leader level. As a result, they were beaten by Lin Yi into a half-disabled bottom family. How could Dongfang Badeo not be angry and resentful? So he had a chance. He would kill Lin Yi, and Dongfang Badeo also learned that Zhang Naipeo and Zhong Pinliang had hatred with Lin Yi. Anyway, they had cooperated to encircle the 3 ancestors of the Bloodcloth Underworld sect last time. It didn't matter to cooperate again. Lin Yi, this kid, spent a lot of money to hire Bodyguard from the Bloodcloth Underworld sect. In the secular world, Dongfang Badeo didn't dare to do anything to him. Later, when Lin Yi leveled up, he didn't dare to do anything to him. But in the trial, it was different. If he died in the trial, who would care? Even the people from the Bloodcloth Underworld sect couldn't come to the trial to protect Lin Yi, right? Besides, thinking back to the beginning, he was really shocked by the people called Ghost King Kong and ignored the existence of Lin Yi. Now thinking about it carefully, even if Lin Yi had money and could hire the Bloodcloth Underworld sect, he might not be able to hire them as bodyguards all the time. If he took advantage of that time to kill Lin Yi before Lin Yi leveled up, there wouldn't be so many troubles. Hey, one step slower, every step slower. Now he pinned his hopes on Zhang Naipeo and Zhong Pinliang. Along the way, he already knew that Zhong Pinliang was the reincarnation of the Mad Dragon ancestor of the everyday and everyday sect, so he was more confident to kill Lin Yi. As for the other person who opened the door, it was the Fist Master of the Holy Fist Palace. He came here to find Zhang Naipeo to avenge his poor disciple, but he was subdued by Zhang Naipeo as soon as they met. Now he was suffering. His body was injected with poisonous gas by Zhang Naipeo, and Zhang Naipeo could control his poisonous gas at any time to make him feel worse than death. This poisonous gas was actually a special kind of true qi transformed by the wasp absorption art and the chrysanthemum book. It was similar to the mother and son true qi. Zhang Naipeo could shoot out the true qi and hit others, and then achieve the purpose of controlling this person. Imagine, if this person was disobedient, Zhang Naipeo would let the poisonous gas take effect, and this person would be in extreme pain, unable to use any strength. If he attacked at this time, he would definitely die. Of course, this trick was only effective for external masters for a long time, because internal masters like the true qi could resolve it on their own when they reached the level of Sky class. It was only a matter of time. However, if it couldn't be resolved at that time, it would definitely have some effect, and it could temporarily make people lose their ability to attack. Therefore, this trick was very powerful. Only Zhang Naipeo, who practiced the Chrysanthemum Book and the Wasp Absorption Art together, could activate this trick. Otherwise, both of them were indispensable. Therefore, the Fist Master of the Holy Fist Palace was temporarily controlled by Zhang Naipeo. He was a physical master, and he had no true qi in his body, so he couldn't resolve Zhang Naipeo's poisonous true qi at all. Therefore, as long as Zhang Naipeo was within 100 meters of him, the true qi in his body could be triggered, and that really made him feel like dying. Chapter 3499. Tai Xiao saw how strong these two were. Having a sky class open the door for them. They had to be strong people, little hands. Who are they? I don't know the one in front, but I've seen the picture of the back. It's Zhang Naipeo, the one known as the strongest person after Lin Yi, Tu Xiaoshou explained. He's Zhang Naipeo. Tai Xiao's eyes flashed with excitement as he sighed and ran over. It's Gunslinger. I've heard so much about you. Naipeo paused and looked at Tai Xiao curiously, confirming that he didn't know him at all. Who are you? Do you know me? Gunslinger. I'm from the Swamp faction of the Foreign. I'm Tai Xiao. I've heard of Gunslinger's name many times, and I'm here today to join Gunslinger. Tai Xiao quickly introduced himself. Other than the ancient sects of the Central Plains, there were other families and sects in the Foreign. It was just that these sects didn't have any contact with the Central Plains, living their own lives, only appearing when Sky-class Island was about to open. Tai Xiao joined Naipeo's side because he wanted to vent his frustration. He had a conflict with Xiao Ran before, and then with Lin Yi, so naturally he couldn't join Lin Yi's side. He wouldn't be welcomed even if he did. He wasn't happy about it, and wanted to teach Lin Yi and Xiao Ran a lesson. So the best choice was Zhang Naipeo. He heard that Naipeo and Lin Yi had a grudge, and that he was quite a strong person as well. As long as he provoked them properly, Naipeo would definitely clash with Lin Yi again, and he'd be able to rejoice then. In truth, he still had a dark side to him, thinking that Lin Yi had lost face when he taught Xiao Ran a lesson. Oh, Naipeo was a bit puzzled. Why did the foreigners know about him? If they were from the Chinese server, that would be understandable. What's your strength? Naipeo wanted to make sure that this guy wasn't that weak, and wanted his protection so that he could get some points in the test. Naipeo didn't mind taking in some strong underlings, just like how Lin Yi took in a bunch of underlings. But the key problem was that he couldn't accept a burden. If he went to the trial, he would have to take care of his underlings. That would be troublesome. I'm an expert at the peak of the late stage of heaven rank. Lu Taisho revealed his strength, then pointed at Tu Xiaoshou and said, he is also my friend. He has the same strength. Tu Xiaoshou didn't know why Lu Taisho was on Naipeo's side, but it was definitely a good thing to have someone strong protecting him in the test. He was on Lu Taishou's side because he wanted to have someone to rely on in the test. Otherwise, he'd die on his own. Canon. Since these two are willing to be your underlings, you should accept them, Pin Liang said faintly as he looked at the two of them. Yes, Liang bro. Naipeo nodded quickly. All right, if that's the case, then you two can follow me. This is my boss, Zhong Pingliang. He's also the founder of the Everyday and Everyday sect. Show some respect. Lu Taisho looked at Pin Liang subconsciously. So young, and he was already being called a founder? How strong. But thinking back to the evil energy of the Everyday and Everyday sect, it wasn't surprising that he was the founder at such a young age. Greetings, Mad Dragon founder. Tu Xiaoshou quickly came over to greet the two as well. And let's go eat something. I'm starting on the way here. Pin Liang waved his hand, gesturing for everyone to go eat first. Excuse me, can you guys do a registration? The shopkeeper walked over carefully. He'd already confirmed the identity of the newcomer, so he didn't dare act rashly. Register my ass. Do you think I'm an imposter? Pin Liang slapped the owner, sending him tumbling on the ground. He wasn't just any Pin Liang now, he was the founder of the Mad Dragon founder. This Sky-class island plan had been started by him and the Xinshan ancestor back in the day, and so only the Xinshan ancestor could talk to him. If it were anyone else, Pin Liang wouldn't even give a shit. The Everyday and Everyday sect was an indispensable sect for the opening of Sky Class Island. And Naipeo, he was one of the indispensable candidates. Naipeo's job was the same as the other heirs, to absorb the 5 malice demonic chi from the entrance formation, relieving the heirs of the burden. Only someone like Naipeo could do that. He could absorb the 5 malice demonic chi, and so he had the right to be arrogant. If the Xianxian ancestor hadn't come looking for them, they wouldn't have been able to open Sky Class Island. It was only after the death of the Mad Dragon founder that the Everyday and Everyday sects started to decline, and the Xianxian ancestor didn't really care about them anymore. But now, Pin Liang was resurrected. We wouldn't dare. The shopkeeper who was beaten had a bitter expression on his face. He didn't expect the people from the Everyday and Everyday sect to be so overbearing, but he didn't dare to interrogate them anymore. He could only let them in while he secretly called Patriarch Xianxun. Pin Liang and Naipeo swaggered towards a restaurant, but Taisa stopped them halfway. Wait, what are you doing? Pin Liang paused, a little unhappy. We'll talk about it when we eat. Why are you stopping me? No, it's just that I have something important to tell you. Taisa said, there's a tough guy eating with his family in the restaurant right now, and he's not letting anyone in. What? Who's so arrogant? Taking over a restaurant all by himself. Isn't that what I do all the time? Pin Liang laughed. Pin Liang, have lived for so long, and there aren't many people who dare act cocky in front of me. Yeah, but this guy is really arrogant. Taisa nodded. Tu Xiaoxiu and I were scared out by him just now. What an idiot, scared out of him just like that. Who's inside? I like to see if they can scare me out too. Pin Liang laughed coldly, not caring at all. Yeah, let's see who's the one scaring who. Naipeo nodded as well. He was just about to show off his newfound strength, and someone came knocking on his door. That guy said he's called Lin. Taisa said weakly. Who cares what he's called? Gah. Pin Liang stopped in his tracks and turned to Taisa. What did you say? He's called Lin Yi? Chapter 3500. That's right, it's Lin Yi. I heard that he's a very hard person to get along with, and even I got kicked out. The only ones eating in there are Lin Yi and his 2 family members, as well as a follower named Xiao Ran. Taisho said, fanning the flames. Tu Xiaoxiu, on the other hand, had to admit that Taisho really knew how to sow dissension. With just a few words, he'd shifted all the hatred and conflict on an Naipeo. Naipeo and Lin Yi were already at odds with each other, and now Naipeo was saying that he wouldn't let anyone in to eat. He wouldn't be Naipeo if he could take it lying down. As expected, it was Pin Liang beside him who got pissed before Naipeo could. Pal, let's go in and have a look. If it's Lin Yi, we should at least greet him. It's been a while. He'd pissed his pants last time at Star West and didn't dare cause trouble for Lin Yi out of fear. After all, Bloodcloak Yellow Springs was under the protection of the Killer Kong duo, and Lin Yi was hired by Bloodcloak Yellow Springs. Pin Liang had to give them some face. But an employer was an employer, and Bloodcloak Yellow Springs was under the Killer Kong duo, but Lin Yi wasn't. He'd given them some face, and that was the best he could do. Besides, conflicts in the test were unavoidable. There was no way Bloodcloak Yellow Springs would turn on him just because of an employer. That was obviously impossible. All right, Naipeo nodded as he followed Pin Liang into the restaurant. Dongfang Badeo, Lawless, Taisho, and Tu Xiaoxiu followed behind them. Bam! The restaurant door was kicked open by Pin Liang. Lin Yi was eating with Han Jingjing and Xin Yan when the sudden noise startled him. Lin Yi turned around to see Pin Liang and Naipeo walking in. Isn't this Mr. Lin Yi? Pin Liang laughed. Long time no see. I wonder if you still remember this old classmate of yours. Wanted to kill you? Lin Yi looked at Pin Liang faintly. Sky class late phase peak? This guy's leveling speed wasn't slow at all. Who knew what kind of treasure the Everyday and Everyday sect had given him for him to level up so quickly? Naipeo, on the other hand, had become a perfected master. Last time, during the trial of the Heavenly Elixir sect, the backlash from Lin Yi's move had formed an inner demon. He didn't expect that he would get out of the predicament so quickly. He was really a martial arts prodigy. Lin, he was getting more and more suspicious. His coming to Songshan was a trap set up by the mastermind. Otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence that all the girls around him were inheritors? The students around him were all martial arts geniuses. Still, this person who could see through the entire game was a master. Even Yushu wouldn't be able to match up to this kind of foresight ability, right? Shu the prophet was already very powerful. But compared to this person, she paled in comparison. Pin Yang, what do you want? Lin, he asked faintly. Haha, it's nothing. Do you know why I'm here? I'll tell you. I'm here for Meng Yao. After the Sky Class Island incident, I'll get Meng Yao. I can't get her heart, and it's the same with her body. I'm no longer the Pin Liang from before. I'm Mad Dragon Pin Liang now. Pin Liang laughed as he threatened Lin Yi. He'd always wanted Meng Yao to fall in love with him, so he'd always used gentle methods. But now that he'd merged with Mad Dragon's personality. But after merging with Mad Dragon's personality, Pin Liang became more decisive and ruthless, and his way of thinking matured. Meng Yao was just a pretty girl after all. He'd just capture her and bring her to the everyday and everyday sect. What was the point of pursuing? Strength was everything. Did the demonic energy invade your brain and turn you into an idiot? Lin, he looked at him. Just say it if you want to die. I'll send you on your way. I didn't kill you before because we were classmates, but I'm no longer the Lin E from before. I'm Lin E who can kill. I've already killed a lot of masters from the Five Elements sect. Your everyday and everyday sect won't make a difference. Good, very good. Do you dare to challenge us during the trial? Pin Liang was getting annoyed. Ever since he became the Mad Dragon Elder, no one dared to disrespect him other than the Killer Kong twins. Boring, what's wrong with you? I'm going to the test, not to beat you up. If you want to get beaten up, go tell the inn and cancel your registration. I'll beat you up first. Lin, he said faintly. He didn't want to leave any evidence for the Shinshin Elder. Once he checked into the inn, it meant that he couldn't openly fight in private before the test. If it was before, it wouldn't matter, but this time, Lin, he had to participate in the test. Even if it wasn't for himself, he had to do it for the inheritors. As a result, Lin, he tried his best not to cause trouble, but Pin Liang's endless chatter annoyed him. That's why he said that. No problem, I didn't register when I came, so it's not considered the test yet. If you're not satisfied, let's spar. Pin Liang said directly. Are you sure? Lin, he looked at Pin Liang strangely. Was this guy crazy? A Sky Class late phase peak dared to challenge a perfect class? In actuality, what Lin he didn't know was that Pin Liang was the Mad Dragon Elder of the Everyday and Everyday sect. How could he not have some abilities? Zhang Naipeo had those evil and mysterious arts, so it was impossible for Pin Liang to not have them. Plus, although Zhang Naipeo failed in the test, he had to give Pin Liang a bone-cleansing pill to appease the Everyday and Everyday sect so that they would do their best to wake him up. After taking the pill, Pin Liang expelled all the toxins from his body, successfully merging with the Mad Dragon ancestor's soul inheritance. His practitioner's arts were actually a very evil existence. That's right, but in order not to hurt our relationship, we'll stop here. We can injure each other, but we can't go all out, Pin Liang said. He was actually afraid that Lin he would go all out and catch him off guard. Huh? Lin he laughed. This Pin Liang was admitting defeat after the challenge, but Lin he really didn't want to kill Pin Liang. Although he said that he hadn't completed the registration, he was already at the inn. If he really killed him, the Shinshin Elder and Kong Ming Ming would come up with some nonsense. Lin he really didn't want to waste time with them. All right, wait for me for a while. Let me finish eating. Chapter 3501. Pin Liang was quite excited to be able to torture Lin Yi with his own hands. He didn't mind waiting a little longer. He brought Naipeo and the others to order some food and started eating at a table not far away. Lu Taishao, on the other hand, had a smug look in his eyes. He really was smart. With just a few words, he made the god of the everyday and everyday sect clash with Lin Yi, and it had escalated to the level of a duel. He was very happy to see Lin Yi get beaten up. At that time, he would be able to step on Xiao Ran again. Motherfucker, this scoundrel, I'll let you see that your backer, Lin Yi, is also a piece of trash. Xiao Ran may have been helped by Lin Yi, but he knew that he and Lin Yi had nothing to do with each other. Lin Yi helping him once was already very good, and it wasn't realistic to expect Lin Yi to help him again. Lin Yi was probably just taking care of her along the way. So Xiao Ran quickly finished his food and left the restaurant when he saw Nai Peo and the others come in. He didn't want to cause more trouble for Lin Yi. Lu Taixiao was obviously on Nai Peo's side, and if he came looking for trouble, would Lin Yi help him or not? However, as soon as Xiao Ran walked out of the restaurant, he heard people talking about Nai Peo. It turned out that the other participants were talking to the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper had just reported to the Shinshin elder about the arrogance of the everyday and everyday sect, but the elder didn't say anything. After all, the Five Elements sect was no longer the same as before. Before, they could suppress the everyday and everyday sect with absolute superiority, but now, how many masters were left? Plus, the plan of Sky Class Island really did need Nai Peo's help. He really couldn't be offended, and so the elder kept quiet and told the shopkeeper not to provoke them for now. However, although the shopkeeper knew that he wasn't a match for them, he could still complain in secret. Coincidentally, there were a few cultivators around, so everyone started chatting. They said some rumors about Zhang Nai Peo, the Holy Fist Palace, and Dongfang Badeo on the way, which made the shopkeeper in Bagua robe feel amazed and cold sweat. He thought that it was fortunate that he did not provoke Zhang Nai Peo and had a conflict with him. Otherwise, would he be controlled? Xiao Ran didn't expect Zhang Nai Peo to be so powerful. A top physical master of the Holy Fist Palace was controlled by him? Wasn't he being too vicious? Then Lin Yi better not be controlled by him. He didn't know the difference between Nai Peo's practitioner's arts for spiritual and physical practitioners. He thought it was all the same, so he thought he had to quickly remind Lin Yi, gratitude and gratitude were the morals of practitioners. He saw that Dongfang Badeo, a spiritual practitioner, was also Nai Peo's follower, so he thought that he was under Nai Peo's control. Thinking of this, Xiao Ran went back to the restaurant and bought a bottle of water. He pretended to sit beside Lin Yi as if nothing had happened. This made Lin Yi a little puzzled. Why did Xiao Ran come back? Brother Lin, listen to me. Xiao Ran lowered his voice and said, Do you know anything about Zhang Nai Peo? Oh, what's the matter? Lin Yi was slightly stunned. Someone was talking about Zhang Nai Peo outside. I heard it. Xiao Ran didn't talk much nonsense and said directly, I heard that on the way here, Zhang Nai Peo had a conflict with Limitless Boxer of the Holy Fist Palace. Limitless Boxer wanted to avenge the disciple of the Holy Fist Palace who was disabled last time. As a result, before the fight started, he was subdued by Zhang Nai Peo and became Zhang Nai Peo's follower. Oh, Limitless Boxer? From a Holy Fist Palace? Became Zhang Nai Peo's follower? Lin Yi frowned after hearing it. He was a little surprised. He only saw Dongfang Badeo before. Lin Yi could understand that he was with Zhang Nai Peo. Lin Yi had killed more people from his family than Zhang Nai Peo, so it was normal for them to have a common enemy. But the other one was actually Limitless Boxer of the Holy Fist Palace? Li Siba of the Holy Fist Palace was Lin Yi's follower. Now Limitless Boxer of the Holy Fist Palace actually became Zhang Nai Peo's follower. It was really ironic. What is the strength of Limitless Boxer of the Holy Fist Palace? How did Zhang Nai Peo do it? Although Lin Yi didn't know the strength of Limitless Boxer of the Holy Fist Palace, he was sure that his strength was not low since he could participate in the Heaven Stage trial. It was really incredible that he could be subdued by Zhang Nai Peo and become his follower. Could it be that after the wasp-sucking skill, the thorn skill, and the demon hell fist, Zhang Nai Peo had practiced some powerful martial arts or mental cultivation method? Thinking about it, it was possible. After all, Zhang Nai Peo had endless evil tricks in the past. This time, he would not be so arrogant if he was not sure. A physical master at the peak of the late stage of the Heaven Stage. He is a top master, even more powerful than the ordinary internal master at the peak of the Heaven Stage. Xiao Ran sighed and said, I don't know the details of how Zhang Naipeo did it. I only heard that Zhang Naipeo casually patted Limitless Boxer of the Holy Fist Palace, and Limitless Boxer suddenly fell to the ground and rolled around in pain. What? Is there such an incredible thing? Lin, he was stunned. Could it be that Zhang Naipeo was now able to control masters of the same level by just moving his hands? What did he rely on? This. Although it's a rumor, but I think it's 80% true. Otherwise, it's really hard for me to understand why Limitless Boxer would be involved with them. Limitless Boxer and the Everyday sect have a deep grudge. Xiao Ran said quietly. Besides, I suspect that Dongfang Badeo was also subdued by Zhang Naipeo, because he's also a peak of the late stage of the Heaven stage. There's no need for him to be a follower and suck up to those in power. Look at his and Limitless Boxer's attitude towards Zhang Naipeo. It's completely different from Luo Taisho. Luo Taisho is the kind of person who plays small tricks, borrowing power to fight power, looking for a backer, but those two seem to be very afraid of Zhang Naipeo. Is your information reliable? Lin nodded faintly. One had to say that Xiao Ran's analysis was very accurate. Sweat, I'm just a freelancer. How would I have any information channels? I just heard people talking about it when I went out, so I paid attention. Xiao Ran said, Brother Lin, just be careful. Then I'll go first. Don't cause you trouble here. It's not good if Luo Taisho uses me to find trouble for you. Lin nodded and patted Xiao Ran's shoulder. He had a good impression of this person. Chapter 3502. If Lin stood up for him, then it would be him and Lin going against each other, which was not in line with his original intention. If he wanted to target Xiao Ran, he would have to wait until Lin was finished. He wasn't that stupid. Lin finished eating and looked at Zhong Pingliang, then said, I'm done. Are you done? We just ate, of course we can't finish. Zhong Pingliang said, Then I'm leaving. Go back and rest. You gave up the challenge. I'll take it as you lost. Lin said, You. Zhong Pingliang was furious. What kind of logic was this? I can wait for you to eat, but you can't wait for me to eat? What kind of logic was this? However, there didn't seem to be any logic with Lin. This person never seemed to be reasonable. He kicked him on the first day of school. How could he reason with him? So Zhong Pingliang could only grit his teeth and said, Fine, I can still beat you up without eating. Let's go. Liang Bro, after you. Lawless Fist and Dongfang Badeo quickly opened the door for Pin Liang to enter the restaurant. Zhong Pingliang and Zhang Naipeo walked in front, and Lu Taisho and Tu Xiaoshou followed behind respectfully. They came to the empty space in front of the inn, and Lin said, What do you want to compete in? Tell me. I can't beat you to death. You're so troublesome. You should know that I'm best at insta-killing my opponents. Insta-killing is too hurtful. We are old classmates. How about this? When I fight for a few moves, if you lose, you better stop. Zhong Pingliang said with a wave of his hand. Oh, what if you lose? Lin asked. I won't lose. Zhong Pingliang said confidently. Zhong Pingliang's words made Lin laugh. Some people were like this, ridiculously arrogant, but Lin couldn't make Zhong Pingliang do anything. If Zhong Pingliang lost, he lost. Lin couldn't do anything to him. Could he kill him? Obviously not. Lin wanted to keep a low profile during the trial. If he killed him, would Lin still be able to participate in the trial? Forget it. Let's begin. Lin waved his hand and said calmly. Pingliang's expression froze, and with a shake of his hand, a soft golden whip that looked like a golden dragon appeared in his hand. This was the Mad Dragon Patriarch's Sky-class weapon. Lin Yi's expression changed slightly. Who would have thought that Pingliang would take out a Sky-class weapon? One had to know that in this era where blacksmiths were extinct, it was extremely difficult to obtain a heaven-ranked divine weapon of one's own attribute, not to mention obtaining one that matched one's own attribute. Even obtaining a weapon of other attributes was extremely difficult. Only a few sects with rich foundations would have it. For example, the ancient sects. It was impossible for ordinary sects and aristocratic families to have them. Fury of the Mad Dragon. Pin Liang shouted suddenly, and the soft whip was like a mad dragon, flashing a dazzling golden light as it lashed towards Lin Yi. The head of the whip was like a dragon, spitting fire, and the heat was scorching. It made people sweat profusely. This was the mantra that the Mad Dragon Patriarch cultivated, called the Mad Dragon Power. This cultivation technique was also a very heaven-defying cultivation technique. Just from its name, one could tell that it was a berserk dragon. Everyone knew how awesome a dragon was. Moreover, it was a berserk dragon. How mighty would it be? Back then, the Mad Dragon Patriarch was also a famous figure in the ancient world, and he could even fight against the Xiantian ancestor. It was just that he was killed by the Vajra dual fiends. Otherwise, not many people could be his match. Even if Pin Liang was only at the peak of the late phase of heaven class and hadn't reached the great perfection, he was still an extremely powerful existence. The chi of the golden dragon that he activated, not only was it extremely powerful, but it also had a suppressive aura. Think about how powerful a dragon's aura was. In the legends, the dragon was the king of kings. Otherwise, the ancient emperors wouldn't be called the true dragon son of heaven. This aura, it could make practitioners tremble in front of him, as if there was a mountain in front of him, in front of Zhong Pingliang. Any practitioner with a slightly weaker temperament would kneel down in fear. Even those with a strong mentality wouldn't be able to use the mantra. After all, the might of a dragon was not to be trifled with. As the chi of the golden dragon was activated, Pin Liang could already imagine how Lin Yi would kneel under his feet, because the people nearby were already trembling, not to mention Lin Yi, who was fighting him head-on. Thump! Thump! The first to kneel wasn't Lin Yi, but Pin Liang's lackeys. Other than Zhang Naipeo, Wu Fist, Dong Fambadeo, Lu Taijian, and Tu Xiaoshou were all kneeling on the ground, trembling, not daring to look at Pin Liang directly. Zhang Naipeo and Pin Liang's arts were the same, and Zhang Naipeo could absorb any poison, qi, energy, and pressure. So, other than the fact that it was a little hard for Zhang Naipeo to dissolve the pressure, there was nothing wrong with it. Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing, on the other hand, felt their hearts palpitate, but for some reason, they didn't kneel on the ground. Pin Liang's whip flew over, but it was caught in Lin Yi's hand. Lin Yi looked at Pin Liang and said faintly, "What is this? Is it fun? Is it fireworks?" Wah! Pin Liang's eyes went wide as he looked at Lin Yi. Lin Yi wasn't being pressured by his pressure, and was even holding his sky-class weapon in his hand. What was going on? That was impossible. His fury of the berserk dragon was effective against any cultivator. As long as it was a cultivator, they would definitely feel his pressure, unless the other party was not a cultivator. But Lin Yi was a practitioner, and a top-level one at that. How could Pin Liang's fury of the berserk dragon be ineffective against Lin Yi? One had to know that fury of the berserk dragon looked very dazzling, but it didn't have much attack power. Its main purpose was to threaten the opponent, and as long as the opponent's psychological defense was broken, he could do whatever he wanted. "How are you fine?" Pin Liang looked at Lin Yi, surprised. "What do you mean, how am I fine? Is there something wrong with you? You used an electric cannon to scare people, and I'm fine? I thought you got smarter after going to the everyday sect, but you're still so stupid. You're just trying to scare people because you're not strong enough." Lin Yi said calmly. Chapter 3503. When the dragon totem appeared, all the practitioners had to kneel and kowtow. This was a skill that could only be used by a perfected practitioner, and using it with a sky-class late-phase peak consumed a lot of their energy. But in order to defeat Lin Yi, Pin Liang didn't care about that anymore. He used his strongest move. He didn't believe that Lin Yi wouldn't submit to him. Not to mention cultivators, even spirit beasts of the same level would have to kneel and submit to his technique. "What are you doing? Magic?" Lin Yi looked at Pin Liang and asked faintly, "You didn't call me here just to watch you play tricks, did you? Are you crazy? Is there anything else? If there's nothing else, I'm going back." "Impossible. Pin Liang's mouth was wide open as he stared at Lin Yi, who was perfectly fine, in utter shock. The move that he was so proud of seemed to be ineffective against Lin Yi. This was a mantra created by the ancient dragon, and it had a strong pressure on practitioners, especially the last move. Anyone who saw it would have to bow down, but Lin Yi didn't move at all. Wasn't this too unrealistic? Why, yeah, go to hell. Pin Liang raised his hands abruptly and made a strange gesture, and the dragon totem behind him glowed brightly in an instant. Pin Liang's mantra was extremely powerful and heaven-defying. It was a mantra passed down from the ancient times, on par with Zhang Naipeo's chrysanthemum arts. Mantras passed down from the ancient times were usually invincible. Pin Liang couldn't understand why his mantra didn't work on Lin Yi. It didn't matter if it didn't work on Lin Yi, but then he realized that Han Jingjing and Xin Yan were fine as well. It didn't work on Lin Yi? It didn't make sense. Pin Liang wasn't willing to give up. He roared, and the dragon totem on his body didn't dissipate. The golden dragon whip in his hand shook again, breaking free from Lin Yi's grip. It was aimed at Lin Yi's head. Lin Yi looked at Pin Liang with a smile that wasn't quite a smile on his face. He didn't know why, but when he fought Pin Liang earlier, he felt as if Pin Liang was his follower. It was as if Pin Liang was his follower, not him. Right now, this feeling was getting stronger and stronger. Lin Yi tried to circulate the mantra and suddenly shouted, "Get down." Pin Liang froze, then fell to the ground as if he'd received a blow, not daring to look at Lin Yi. His face was filled with shock and unwillingness, but he couldn't control his body. Pin Liang's situation shocked Lin Yi as well, but Lin Yi quickly thought of a possibility. Lin Yi's art was called the art of dragon mastery. Pin Liang's arts must have something to do with dragons. Could it be that it had a restraining effect? Back then, when Lin Yi was cultivating it, he felt that the name of the art of dragon mastery was amazing. It could even control a dragon. That was quite amazing. So now it could suppress Pin Liang's mantra. That wasn't surprising at all. It seemed like the name of the art of dragon mastery wasn't just for show. After Pin Liang fell to the ground, he stopped circulating the mantra, but the pressure on his body weakened a lot. He tried it. He could actually stand up. What was going on? Pin Liang was stunned, thinking that it wasn't an illusion just now, was it? This move of his had never failed before. So he harbored the thought of giving it a try and revolved the violent dragon divine technique once again. In the end, that kind of pressure suddenly returned again. Pin Liang realized, to his dismay, that he wanted to submit to Lin Yi as soon as he used the practitioner's arts. But if it were anyone else, wouldn't they have to submit to Lin Yi? Why did he feel like submitting to Lin Yi? Impossible. He couldn't accept it. He couldn't accept it. Pin Liang, are you going to be my follower? It looks like Prophet Shu was right. You're just a follower of mine. Lin Yi said mockingly as he looked at Pin Liang. What? Prophet Shu? Pin Liang paused, remembering who Prophet Shu was. Yushu had tricked him a lot back then, and he gritted his teeth in anger. Don't talk about this, we'll see in the trial. Do what you want. All right, since you're kneeling, it's your loss. If there's nothing else, I'm going back, Lin Yi said, waving at Xin Yan and Han Jingjing, and the three of them walked to the inn. Xiao Ran saw Lin Yi's power from afar, suppressing Pin Liang. He was very surprised, secretly admiring Lin Yi. Pin Liang, on the other hand, didn't want to accept it, but there was nothing he could do. He lost the first battle, and he wanted to use Lin Yi to show off his power. Although he couldn't do anything to Lin Yi, making Lin Yi submit was a very satisfying thing. Wasn't Lin Yi the number one under Sky Dao? Now that the number one had submitted to him, didn't that make him the number one now? Unfortunately, it was all for naught. Pin Liang's chant could be said to be effective against anyone under Sky Dao. It was just a matter of how strong the effect was. It might be effective against someone like the Xianxin Ancestor, but the Xianxin Ancestor would react very quickly and wouldn't be suppressed for long. But Lin Yi wasn't affected at all. Naipeo didn't expect this to happen, and he waited until Lin Yi left before coming back to his senses. Liang bro, do you want me to do something? No, you're a trump card. We need to save it for the test. We can't go against Lin Yi too early. Pin Liang shook his head. He didn't want to, but there was nothing he could do. He humphed. Let's go back. All right. Pin Liang nodded as he followed. As for the others, although they saw that Pin Liang had lost, no one dared to abandon him. They couldn't even handle Zhang Naipeo alone, let alone Pin Liang, who was so powerful. Lin, he thought as he walked, why were Han Jingjing and Xin Yan fine? But no matter how he thought about it, the only explanation was that they both had their own pure qi in their bodies. Perhaps the pure qi he generated through the art of dragon mastery was able to defend against Pin Liang's mad dragon arts. Although it couldn't make Pin Liang submit, it was possible to not be suppressed by him. For the next 2 days, Pin Liang and Naipeo didn't provoke Lin Yi at all. When Lin Yi brought Han Jingjing and Xin Yan to the restaurant to eat, they pretended not to see anything. Tai Sa, on the other hand, ignored Xiao Ran as well, as if he'd forgotten who he was. Chapter 3504. In addition, other than Zhong Pingliang and the others, Lin Yi saw a few acquaintances. Song Lingrue came, but she pretended not to know Lin Yi and didn't greet Lin Yi. Bubbly Clan's Thor Ryu also came. He did greet Lin Yi, but under Lin Yi's hint, he didn't get too close to Lin Yi. After all, Lin Yi didn't want to be too ostentatious this time. When facing Zhong Pingliang, he also knew when to stop. In fact, from the beginning to the end, Lin Yi didn't make a move. The rest of the sects with inheritors didn't come. It seemed that they weren't with ordinary trial takers. There were also a few disciples of foreign small sects that he didn't know. They didn't talk to Lin Yi, and Lin Yi didn't bother to greet them. No matter how he thought about it, there weren't that many people in the Heaven Class trial. Even if Lin Yi reached the ancient level, the number of Heaven Class masters was still pitifully small. There weren't many Heaven Class masters at the peak of the late phase or the full circle of Heaven Class. It was the last day of the trial registration. On this day, nothing happened and no other trial takers came to register. At night, a voice suddenly rang out in the open space behind the inn. Although the voice wasn't loud, it had a very strong, penetrating power. It carried a very strong majesty, causing the hearts of all the challengers in the inn to tremble. All trial takers participating in the Heaven Stage trial, please note that the registration time for this trial has ended. Now we will start the registration. All trial takers in the inn, please gather in the open space behind the inn within 5 minutes to accept the registration and inspection of the 5 Elements sect. No one will wait after the deadline. This voice belonged to ancestor Xianshun, and Lin Yi was very familiar with it. Moreover, he didn't hide his strength at all, revealing the strength of Heaven Stage, Peak Late Stage, and Great Circle. It was actually ancestor Xianshun himself. Lin Yi was somewhat moved. It seemed that the 5 Elements sect attached great importance to this trial. However, they didn't pay a deposit like the other trials. This made Lin Yi feel somewhat strange. Logically speaking, Kong Mingming had lost so much money previously. Why didn't he take the opportunity to make more money this time? But after thinking about it carefully, those who could participate in the 5 Elements sect trial were all elites of their respective sections. Moreover, they were here to prepare for the Heavenly Rank meeting and the qualification to enter the Heavenly Rank Island. It was a bit inappropriate to collect money at this time. Moreover, he reckoned that Patriarch Xuanxin's mind was no longer on money. He was going to Heaven Stage Island, so what was the point of having so much money in the secular world? It was still uncertain what kind of currency it would be on the Heavenly Island. One had to know that the higher the level of cultivation, the less useful money would be. Those natural treasures couldn't be measured with money, so it was more common for them to be traded for other treasures. However, when he first participated in other trials, there were very few sect masters who directly shouted for people. Lin, he had some evil thoughts. Could it be that there was no one else in the 5 Elements sect? His disciple was killed by him. So Patriarch Xianshun had no choice but to go personally? Thinking about it, Lin Yi still brought Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing to the open space behind the inn. In less than a minute, almost all the trial takers had left the inn and came to the square behind the inn. After all, Everyone was a heavenly rank expert, so their speed wasn't slow. Lin Yi, Han Jingjing, and Wang Xinyan found a relatively clean place and sat cross-legged on the ground. The other trial takers came over and followed Lin Yi's example. They found a place to sit down. Everyone had participated in the trial before and knew the rules. They knew that the rules of the trial must be explained when everyone was gathered here. On a temporarily built high platform in the square behind the inn, Patriarch Xianshun was wearing a bagua robe and stood with his hands behind his back. Behind him stood 3 people. These 3 people were all very familiar to Lin Yi. One of them made Lin Yi very excited. It was actually Tian Shan, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Since the last trial of the Heavenly Elixir sect, Lin Yi hadn't seen Tian Shan again. He didn't expect her to follow behind Patriarch Xianshun. Could she also be a disciple of the 5 Elements sect? However, Tian Shan didn't look sideways, as if she didn't notice Lin Yi at all. This made Lin Yi slightly disappointed. Tian Shan was a girl he was very attracted to, but perhaps their relationship stopped at the last trial of the Heavenly Elixir sect. As for the other 2 people, they were Kong Ming Ming and Little 11. These 3 people didn't hide their strength. The strength of the great perfection of the late-stage heaven stage was revealed. Lin Yi wasn't surprised that Tian Shan had the strength of the great perfection. However, wasn't Kong Ming Ming and Little 11's speed of advancement a little too fast? Could it be that Kong Ming Ming refined the chi-gathering pills for the couple to consume? Thinking that the 5 Elements sect must have kept a lot of white energy stones for their own use, it was not surprising that Kong Ming Ming could quickly refine the chi-gathering pills. As long as an alchemist could quickly restore his physical strength and chi, it was possible to refine as many pills as he wanted. However, Patriarch Xianshun was really willing to spend a lot of money. For them, the white energy stones were one less. In the past, they were only used to assist in cultivation, but now they were actually used for alchemy. However, Patriarch Xianshun probably didn't care about these things anymore, since they were going to Heavenly Island. On the other hand, Little 11 was clearly injured and crippled by Lin Yi, but he could still improve his strength? How did he improve his strength? This made Lin Yi extremely surprised. It seemed that the foundation of the 5 Elements sect was still very deep, and it was not something that he could understand. Kong Ming Ming's eyes swept across the challengers below, as if he was looking for something. When he saw Lin Yi, his eyes suddenly flashed with excitement and bloody brilliance. This made Lin Yi's heart tighten. The way this guy looked at him was not quite right. Could it be that he was thinking of some dirty tricks to deal with him in the trial? Kong Ming Ming had always been like this. If it wasn't because he had the identity of Patriarch Xuanshun's son-in-law, which made him different from those disciples, Lin Yi really couldn't let him stay until now. But now, Lin Yi didn't want to fall out with Patriarch Xianshun before landing on Heavenly Island. Without Patriarch Xianshun, Lin Yi didn't know how to get to Heavenly Island, so he temporarily let Kong Ming Ming stay. And Little 11, who was next to Kong Ming Ming, swept his eyes over to Lin Yi, and his eyes didn't leave Han Jingjing and Wang Xinyan. Obviously, he was also full of hatred. However, Lin Yi heard that this Heavenly Island trial was an important event before landing on Heavenly Island. Kong Ming Ming shouldn't destroy him, right? After all, the matter of Heavenly Island was more important than anything else. Chapter 35:05. After a while, a minibus slowly drove over. The door opened, and a group of beautiful women alighted from the minibus, causing the eyes of all the contestants to light up. However, no one dared to have any ill intentions, because they were all inheritors. Ice Palace's people were Crystal Candy and Xiao Xiao. After getting off, they looked at the participants and sat down next to the Xianshun Ancestors platform, much closer to him than the other participants. Lin Yi knew that they were looking at him, and he let out a sigh of relief. Finally, he saw them, reuniting with the participants, going to Sky Class Island. This was Lin Yi's persistence and hard work, and now that the moment had come, Lin Yi was extremely excited. Snowy Valley's people were Sydney and Tang Yun. Lin Yi had seen these two before, and he had an impression of them. But his impression was that they were very pure and pretty, and Sydney was secondary. As for Tang Yun, Lin Yi suddenly had an indescribable feeling. It was as if the girl he saw in that instant in Snowy Valley was her. Was it her? Probably. It was a very strange feeling, and for some reason, the moment he saw Tang Yun, Lin Yi's heart palpitated. Could it be that this was a special attraction between him and the inheritors? The other inheritors all had a relationship with Lin Yi, and it was a boyfriend-girlfriend kind of relationship, but the one from Snowy Valley wasn't. And now, Lin Yi's feeling towards Tang Yun made him wonder if it was the will of the heavens. Dark Palace's people were Meng Yao and the Grand Elder, and the mist didn't hide it at all. She got off the car and looked at Lin Yi, nodding to Lin Yi and smiling, before sitting down next to Xiao Xiao with the Elder on stage. Xiao Xiao didn't care if the person on stage was the Xianqian ancestor or not, and started chatting with Meng Yao. This caused Patriarch Xuanqian's expression to turn a little ugly. However, he still had to rely on these inheritors, so he couldn't say much. What elemental inheritance? Boss Bai and Guan Xian got off the car. Of course, Boss Bai couldn't participate in the trial because his level wasn't high enough. Moreover, he didn't want to go to the Heavenly Island. Wang Xinyan didn't use the remaining Qi-gathering pills when she leveled up, so Lin Yi decided to save them for Boss Bai. With them, Boss Bai would be able to break through to Sky Class. He might even be able to reach the consummate level, and it wouldn't be difficult for him to regain control of the Five Elements sect. From the endless West Sea, the person who came was an old woman, and beside her was Yu Ning. This old woman's strength, it seemed like she had no strength at all. She should be an ordinary person, but Yu Ning's strength had shocked Lin Yi. Peak late heaven rank, great perfection. Lin Yi couldn't help but admire the secret indoctrination of Tantric Buddhism. The world was so big that there were still many talented people. From Fiery Mountain, the person who came was Rocket Cannon and Yushu. Yushu's strength had also reached peak late heaven rank, great perfection, which shocked Lin Yi. However, her situation was very similar to Yu Ning's. It was probably caused by the secret indoctrination of Tantric Buddhism. From Yellow Earth High Sect, the person who came was Tu Ching Song and Tu Ran Ran. Tu Ran Ran's strength hadn't reached great perfection, only peak late heaven rank. But even so, one could imagine the strength of these foreign sections. The foreign sects all had some secret methods that could quickly increase the strength of cultivators. This was different from the ancient sects of the Central Plains. Of course, correspondingly, although the speed of improvement was very fast, the price paid was also quite huge. Long ago, a master might have to sacrifice the strength of 2 or 3 masters. This kind of 2-for-1, 3-for-1 situation could only be seen in the foreign lands. The sects of the Central Plains would not do this. These inheritors all got off the car and found a place to sit. The rules of the trial were probably going to be announced soon. Sure enough, when Ancestor Xianshan saw that everyone had arrived, he nodded indifferently and said, "Okay, since everyone is here, then let's begin. First, let me introduce myself. Maybe many of you already know me. My name is Xianshan, the acting sect master of the Five Elements sect, the person in charge of the Heaven Rank Trial, the Heaven Rank Meeting, and the Heaven Rank Island Plan." Ancestor Xuanqian's words made the cultivators below tremble. They were very excited. The Heaven Rank Island, the Heaven Rank Dao, was a higher pursuit for these cultivators. Who didn't want to have higher strength? Some people said that you're already a top existence in the secular world. You can be called a land atomic bomb. Why do you still want to advance? There's a saying that there is no end to learning, and the path of martial art cultivation is the same. After reaching a bottleneck, there is hope to cross it. This is the lifelong pursuit of the cultivators of my generation. In this trial, there are 2 of my assistants who will help everyone participate in the trial. And one of them is my son-in-law, Kong Mingming. Everyone should have seen him before. He is also an elder of the Heavenly Elixir sect. Ancestor Xianshan said. These words surprised the cultivators below. Many people still didn't know Kong Mingming's identity. At this moment, when Ancestor Xianshan said it, Everyone immediately became cautious. This Kong Ming Ming was someone they had to curry favor with. And the other one is the young sect master of the Heavenly Elixir sect, Tian Chan. Ancestor Xianxin once again dropped a bombshell and pointed at Tian Chan. The cultivators below looked at Ancestor Xianxin in an uproar. Was it the young sect master of the Heavenly Elixir sect a man? How did he become a beautiful girl? Was the rumor wrong, or was he a transvestite? Moreover, wasn't the young sect master of the Heavenly Elixir sect called Heavenly Silkworm Transformation? How did he become Tian Chan? Of course, the ones who were the most shocked were the heirs and their sections. The young sect master of the Heavenly Elixir sect had more or less gone to the sects of these heirs to propose marriage. But now it seemed that the young sect master of the Heavenly Elixir sect was a woman. Where did the rumor of having many wives and concubines come from? Why did this woman want to propose marriage? Was Ancestor Xianxin lying? As for the fact that the young sect master of the Heavenly Elixir sect is a woman, I was the one who asked them to hide it. The matter of going to the heir's sect to propose marriage was also arranged by me. As for the specific reason, I will announce it at the Heavenly Rank meeting. Now, your main task is the trial. Don't think about these things for now. Ancestor Xianxin gave a simple explanation and then continued. These two are disciples of my Five Elements sect. Kong Ming Ming is my disciple, and Tian Chan is my second senior brother's disciple. They're the senior assistants who help me control the trial. Chapter 3506. Lenny took a deep breath. Although he did not know why Patriarch Xianxin had arranged this, if there was only Kong Ming Ming as a trial assistant, then he was afraid that Kong Ming Ming would give him a lot of trouble in the trial. This was not what Lenny wanted to see, but if Tian Chan was there, Lin Yi believed that Tian Chan would help him no matter what. Most of you are from the major ancient families and sections. I won't go into detail about the danger of the trial. Since you are here, you should be very clear. I believe that even itinerant cultivators understand that the trial is full of danger. If you don't want to die, you can withdraw now. Once you go in, your life and death will be up to fate. Patriarch Xianxin paused slightly when he said this. He glanced at the inheritors and continued. The trial testers are in danger, and the inheritors are also in danger. But what you have to do is to protect the inheritors and not let them be in any danger. Otherwise, everyone will be finished. If the Heaven-level island cannot be opened, all the previous efforts will be wasted. Patriarch Xuanxin's words caused the trial takers below to fall silent. Indeed, they only had one goal in coming here, and that was to advance to the heavenly way. If something happened to the inheritor, then everyone's dreams would be shattered. Many people still wanted to go to the Heaven-level island to show off their skills and look up to those legendary seniors who went to the Heaven-level island. If everything was wasted, then they would really regret it. However, thinking about it, everything had risks. As long as everyone did their best, it would be fine. Patriarch Xianxin looked at the expressions of the cultivators below and was very satisfied. This trial was different from the other trials in the past. If something went wrong, everyone would be doomed. But now, it seemed that everyone was taking it seriously. Well, since everyone understands the importance of this trial, then I will talk about the rules of this trial. The duration of this trial is 3 days. It will float for 5 days. This is probably the shortest trial you have participated in. Not bad, you can't hold on for too long, and it is meaningless. As long as you consolidate the inheritor's inherited elemental power, it will be fine. The purpose of the trial will also be achieved. Patriarch Xianxin said, the location of the trial this time is still the Ice Fiend Wilderness that many people have gone to. However, the location of the Fiend Wilderness this time is different. It should be the Fiend Mountain Range. The things that Patriarch Xianxin said were very different from the previous trials. Everyone present listened very seriously. When they heard that it was still training in the 5 evil savage wasteland, everyone's expressions became somewhat solemn. Previously, when the spirit beast frenzy broke out, many people nearly died there. If they were to go to the five evil savage land again, it would definitely be exceptionally dangerous. The destination of this trial. It was the cave of the five demons dragon in the five demons mountain range. I'm sure all of you have heard of the five evils dragon, right? This is the king of 10,000 beasts of the five evils savage land. According to this old man's investigation, it has already reached the peak of heaven rank and has a high chance of breaking through to the heavenly Tao. Therefore, all of you must be extremely careful. What you need to do is to lure the dragon of five evils out of its cave. Then, let all the inheritors enter the cave. This is because the cave is the spring of the five evils chi. After all the inheritors enter, they will absorb the devil chi of their own inheritance attribute to achieve the purpose of strengthening the inheritance. Similarly, the inheritors will resist the remaining four types of devil chi and break through the pressure to break through the limit. The inheritors who did not advance to the great perfection realm will also advance in the pressure. This process will last about 2 to 3 days, until all the inheritors succeed in strengthening the inheritance attribute and advance to heaven rank great perfection realm. As for the other inheritors, you must remember that you are no match for the dragon of five evils. Don't even think about fighting against it or killing it. Your goal is to deal with it and lure it out of the cave. As long as you don't return, you will succeed. At the same time, under the pressure of the five evils dragon and the five evils aura, those of you who haven't advanced to the great circle of the heaven realm can take advantage of this opportunity to advance. This is a rare opportunity. I hope you don't waste it. In the trial, all the inheritors will listen to Tian Chan's arrangements and orders. All the trial takers will listen to Kong Ming Ming's orders. If you don't listen, you will be disqualified from this trial. Don't even think about landing on Heaven Rank Island. There is no chance. Patriarch Xuanqin's voice was very strict, causing the trial takers below to be very careful. However, when Linny heard that Kong Ming Ming would be in charge of the trial, he was a little worried. Kong Ming Ming had a grudge against him. If he caused any trouble in the trial, Lin Yi would really be unable to guard against it. At that time, if Kong Ming Ming said that Lin Yi did not cooperate, what would Lin Yi do? However, now that things had come to this, Lin Yi could only put up with it. If Kong Ming Ming really disqualified him, he might also fight to the death to make all the inheritors leave and stop this plan. Then, he would see what Patriarch Xianshan would do. Okay, that's all for the rules of this trial. I'm going to prepare to open the teleportation device. You can communicate privately first. If the inheritors have any questions, you can ask Tian Shan now. If the other trial takers have any questions, you can ask Kong Ming Ming. After Patriarch Xianshan finished speaking, he left in a hurry. Obviously, he was going to prepare for the inheritors' teleportation to the Five Evils mountain range. It was not possible for the inheritors to enter the Five Evils mountain range naturally. First, there was no way. Second, it was extremely dangerous. It was difficult for them to walk there. Fortunately, the seniors of the Five Elements sect had left a teleportation device. After opening, it could directly send the trial takers and inheritors to the Five Evils mountain range, near the Five Evils Dragon's Cave. After Patriarch Xianshan left, the trial takers all surrounded Kong Ming Ming. Of course, other than Zhong Pingliang and Zhang Naipeo, who were a little reserved, the others were almost on their knees. After all, Kong Ming Ming could be said to have the power of life and death in his hands. If he said pass, then pass. If not, then fail. Isn't this Liang Bro and Pao? Come, let's discuss the division of work after we reach the Five Evils mountain range. Kong Ming Ming called out to Zhong Pingliang and Zhang Naipeo. He wanted to kill Lin Yi, and naturally, he needed these two's cooperation. Chapter 3507. Putting aside the fact that Zhang Naipeo was very useful, Kong Ming Ming had learned from the Xianqian elder that Pin Liang was possessed by the Mad Dragon Master, so calling him Liang Bro was a more respectful way of addressing him. Pin Liang saw that Kong Ming Ming's attitude wasn't bad, so he walked over proudly. "All right, Brother Kong, tell me." Kong Ming Ming looked not far away and realized that Lin Yi wasn't coming over, but was walking towards the inheritor instead. He was overjoyed and lowered his voice. "Liang bro, I know that you and Lin Yi are enemies, and I have a way to get rid of Lin Yi. I need everyone's cooperation." The other participants heard Kong Ming Ming say that he wanted to get rid of Lin Yi, and their faces changed slightly, but then they felt relieved. Since Kong Ming Ming said it in front of them, it meant that they were on the same side. As long as they stood firmly on Kong Ming Ming's side and didn't try to get close to Lin Yi, then there wouldn't be any problems in this trial. At least, Kong Ming Ming wouldn't cause them any trouble. After thinking this through, everyone was very happy. "Oh, tell me about it." Pin Liang was actually afraid that the Five Elements sect would interfere with him and Zhang Naipeo fighting Lin Yi. After all, this trial was different from the past, and the main goal was to protect the inheritor, not to be a hero. But now, since Kong Ming Ming also wanted to fight Lin Yi, the pressure on him was much lighter, and he didn't have to worry about anything at all. When we go to the trial, we just need to do this. Then Liang Bro and Pao, you guys take over at any time. Kong Ming Ming said, "Good plan." Everyone agreed after hearing this. This was simply a great thing to do at the expense of others. They had no reason to disagree. As for Lin Yi, he didn't go to Kong Ming Ming's place either. Obviously, it wasn't welcomed by Kong Ming Ming, so Lin Yi didn't bother to give him a cold shoulder. He brought Han, Jingjing, and Xin Yan to the inheritors. Tian Chan was in the middle of explaining to the inheritors the things to pay attention to when they went to the cave and how to resist the pressure when she felt someone coming from behind her. She turned around and saw Lin Yi. She smiled at him. This instant smile overlapped with the yellow-clothed girl in Lin Yi's memory. Lin Yi took a deep breath and seemed to recall Tian Chan's catchphrase, "a kick you." However, what Lin Yi didn't expect was that Tian Chan was actually the young master of the Heavenly Elixir sect. At this moment, Lin Yi suddenly understood why the Heavenly Elixir sect's attitude towards him was so ambiguous. Kong Ming Ming was against him, but the young master of the Heavenly Elixir sect seemed to help him often. If the young master was Tian Chan, all of this could be explained. "Tian Chan, long time no see." "Long time no see," Lin Yi said as he walked over. "Yes," Tian Chan responded lightly, as if she wasn't very familiar with Lin Yi. Perhaps Tian Chan already knew about the relationship between Lin Yi and the inheritors, so she didn't want to show that she was familiar with Lin Yi in front of them. Or Tian Chan was just as she said. After parting in the Five Evil Savage Land, I am me, and you are you. Lin Yi took a deep breath and said, "I'll leave the inheritors' safety in your hands." The inheritors looked at Lin Yi in surprise. They didn't know how Lin Yi knew Tian Chan. It seemed like it wasn't the first time they met, and they seemed to be very familiar with each other. Lin Yi nodded and looked at the inheritors. Other than those who were familiar with him, Lin Yi's gaze finally fell on Tang Yin. He didn't know why, but Tang Yin seemed to have a special attraction to Lin Yi. This feeling was as if he had seen her in his previous life. It was very mysterious. Tang Yin felt Lin Yi's gaze as well, and her breathing quickened. This was the person she thought about day and night, the person she loved dearly, but she couldn't get to know him. Tang Yin was very happy that Lin Yi was able to grow to his current strength and appear in the Sky Class test. But looking at the beautiful girls around Lin Yi, Tang Yin would be lying if she said she wasn't jealous. Luckily, she'd known most of these people since she was still here. Meng Yao, Yu Shu, Xiao Xiao, Guan Xi, only Yuning and Jiu were new. But she'd talked to Meng Yao before, and she knew that these two were people Lin Yi knew before her, so she didn't have to worry too much about it. Plus, because of Tang Yin's arts, she couldn't have love, so this didn't have much to do with her. She was now a master at the peak of the late phase of Sky Division, and she had not reached the great perfection yet. The stagnation of Heartless formula made Tang Yin a little anxious, and Shueli was even more worried. So when she saw Lin Yi looking at her, Shueli subconsciously coughed twice, hinting Tang Yin to not get back together with Lin Yi. Otherwise, if she couldn't reach the great perfection of Sky Division, everything would be in vain. Tang Yin heard Sydney's cough and knew that she was reminding her. so she didn't raise her head. Lin Yi realized that Tang Yin wasn't looking at him, and Lin Yi could only sigh and leave. Tian Chan was explaining things related to inheritors, and Lin Yi couldn't just sit and listen. What was wrong with him sitting and listening? When Lin Yi walked back, Kong Ming called out to him, "Isn't this Lin Yi, the strongest wandering cultivator under the heavenly Tao?" Kong Xiaoming gave Lin Yi so many titles as soon as he opened his mouth. Lin Yi felt that something was wrong. This guy must be up to no good. As expected, after Lin Yi walked over and looked at him, Kong Ming continued, "We discussed it, and since you're the strongest among us, then you will be in charge of luring the dragon of 5 evils out of the cave. After all, whoever is stronger will do the work. Do you have any objections to my arrangement?" So he was waiting here. Lin Yi laughed in his heart at Kong Ming's scheming. Luring the dragon of 5 evils out of the cave was the most dangerous part, and one could die at any time. In this mission, Kong Ming actually let Lin Yi do it, and at the end, he even said that this was his arrangement, and he asked Lin Yi if he had any objections. It was a blatant threat, telling Lin Yi that if Lin Yi didn't listen to him, he had the right to cancel Lin Yi's qualification to participate in the trial at any time. Chapter 3508. With the Go Senior as his trump card, Lin Yi would not be in too much danger. "Just me." Lin Yi glanced at Kong Ming and asked calmly, "That's right. We had a meeting just now and unanimously decided that only you are the most suitable. This is the result of a vote. Of course, you can disagree and we can choose someone else. However, since you don't listen to orders, I can only refuse to let you participate in the Heaven-class trial." Kong Ming said, "Do you think it's interesting to say that? Unanimous decision? Who decided? You decided? You decided? Or you?" Lin Yi casually pointed at a few trial takers around Kong Ming and asked calmly. However, these people all lower their heads. No one dared to look directly at Lin Yi. After all, Lin Yi was infamous in the ancient times. He killed anyone he didn't like. These people wanted to lick Kong Ming's boots, but they didn't dare to offend Lin Yi. After all, if Lin Yi really wanted to beat them to death, Kong Ming wouldn't be able to save them. "Lin Yi, don't worry about that. Anyway, are you going to listen or not?" Kong Ming's eyes flashed with anger. He just said that to make it sound more dignified. However, he didn't expect that Lin Yi wouldn't give him any face and directly exposed him. This made him feel embarrassed. "If you don't want to go, then please leave. The trial doesn't welcome you." "Who said I don't agree?" Lin Yi asked calmly. "Which ear did you hear that? I'm just questioning it." "You?" Kong Ming was furious. "If you agree, why didn't you say so earlier? You put me on the spot with so much nonsense." He snorted and said, "Do you see that? In the trial, I am the authority. Those who submit to me will prosper, and those who oppose me will perish. This Lin Yi is the #1 itinerant cultivator under the heavenly Tao. He didn't dare to disobey and spouted a bunch of bullshit. In the end, he still had to obediently submit." Kong Ming was not stupid. He changed a bad thing into a good thing in an instant and said directly, "Oh, then I won't give in. I'm leaving," Lin Yi said. He turned around to leave. Quack! Kong Ming was stunned. He didn't expect that Lin Yi would leave so decisively. He didn't know how to deal with it. What a cheap mouth. Lin Yi had already agreed, so why was he still acting tough for the sake of face? Now that Lin Yi was gone, didn't that mean that the plan he'd made was wasted? This made him a little at a loss. He hesitated for a moment and hurriedly said, "Don't, I was just joking." "Haha, Lin Yi, don't get too excited. You're already here. It would be a pity if you don't join." "Oh, since you want me to stay, then I'll reluctantly join. But I regret it. Send me an assistant to lure the 5 malefic dragon. I think he's a good person. What do you think?" Lin Yi said. He pointed at Lu Taisho and said. Lin Yi didn't like this kind of two-faced guy. He had chosen to submit after hearing his name, but now he was on Pin Liang's side. There was no way Lin Yi would let him go. I think Kong Ming was in a difficult position. This person was obviously Pin Liang's underling. If he made the decision, it would be the same as offending Pin Liang. That'd be offending Pin Liang, too. He'd said he'd protect the others, and now he'd have to hand one over for Lin Yi. This wasn't the case. Oh, since Lin Yi needs it, then let Lu Taisho go. It's a trial anyway. I think it's normal for him to make a sacrifice. Pin Liang was going to cause trouble during the trial, and if Lin Yi left now, who would he deal with? Lu Taisho was an insignificant person, so it didn't matter if he was handed over. Lu Taisho's expression changed. He didn't think that he would be the first to be handed over after joining Pin Liang. This made him very depressed. If he knew this would happen, he would have joined Lin Yi. Although he could lure the 5 Malefic Dragon with Lin Yi, at least Lin Yi would protect him. Now he was just cannon fodder. Liang bro, I can't do it. I'm not experienced enough. What if I mess things up? Lu Taisho was a little numb. He didn't want to die. It wasn't easy to come here to participate in the trial, and his goal was to ascend to heavenly Tao, not to die. Since Lin Yi thinks so highly of you, you must have something special about you. Kong Xiaoming, naturally, wouldn't let Lu Taisho off the hook after Pin Liang agreed. He interrupted him immediately. I think you shouldn't look down on yourself. Let's just do this. Kong Mingming made the final decision, and Lu Taisho had no other choice. He knew that he was going to die. He looked at Kong Mingming gloomily. I'm withdrawing from the trial. Cancel my registration. I'm not going. Oh, Kong Mingming was startled. He didn't expect Lu Taisho to play this trick. But to be honest, whether Lu Taisho went or not had nothing to do with Kong Mingming. What he was afraid of was that Lin Yi would be unhappy if Lu Taisho left. It wouldn't be fun if Lu Taisho left as well. Pin Liang's expression changed, but Lin Yi raised his hand and punched at Lu Taisho. The 20th form of Frenzy Fist was the strongest form of Lin Yi's normal techniques, but even a normal technique was far stronger than other people's 20 forms. This was equivalent to the 21st form. Even if it hit Lu Taisho, if it didn't kill him, it would at least cripple him. Boom dash, a loud sound rang out, and Lu Taisho was sent flying by Lin Yi's attack. He smashed into the ground not far away, creating a human-shaped crater. He spat out a mouthful of blood, evidently suffering from serious internal injuries. Since he's not a participant anymore, I'll finish him off here. Saves me the trouble of bringing him to the trial. Lin Yi said faintly, originally, if he had contributed in the trial, I could have spared his life. Since he doesn't want to go, then there's no need to go. Although Lin Yi's words were indifferent, it made everyone present tremble. Lin Yi was too overbearing. He attacked without warning. He really couldn't be provoked. However, Kong Mingming's anger was vented in his heart. Who told Lu Taisho to not listen to orders? Haha. Yes, since he doesn't want to participate, then his life and death has nothing to do with our 5 Elements sect. Kong Mingming said faintly. Then, Lin, who do you need to help you now? No need, I'll do it myself. Lin, he waved his hand. He glanced at Xiao Ran not far away. He saw Xiao Ran standing at the back of the participants, watching Lu Taisho get beaten up with some excitement. Chapter 3509. Haha, that's good. In that case, let's go to the trial. Kong Mingming also saw the Xianxin ancestor walking over at this time. After the Xianxin ancestor walked over, everyone present immediately quieted down. After all, the Xianxin ancestor was unreachable in their hearts. Although they were all experts at the great perfection of Heaven Stage, perhaps only Lin Yi could compete with him. Okay, the teleportation array has been opened. Participants, please follow me. The Xianxin ancestor said. Kong Mingming nodded and led the heirs to follow the Xianxin ancestor to the teleportation array in the distance. This was a large array left behind from ancient times. It was said that it was set up by a formation master, but the formation master had disappeared and not even a bit of information was left behind. Therefore, no one knew how to set up and repair the array. They only knew how to use it, and this array could only be used a few times. It was said that there was a limit to the number of times it could be used. The Xinshan ancestor made a gesture, and Kong Ming Ming let the participants enter in a line. They entered what looked like a teleportation tunnel, and then the participants in front of them disappeared. Lin Yi, Xiao Ran, Wang Xinyan, and Han Jingjing were the last to enter before Kong Ming Ming. After entering the tunnel, everything suddenly became dark, but soon it became clear. Almost in an instant, Lin Yi arrived at the Five Fiends mountain range. Although Lin Yi couldn't determine where it was in the Five Fiends mountain range, judging from the surrounding environment and the density of the Five Fiends chi here, it must be the Five Fiends mountain range. After taking a deep breath, Lin Yi said to Han Jingjing and Wang Xinyan, "You two are here to gain experience. Don't get too close to the Five Fiends dragon." "Okay." Han Jingjing and Wang Xinyan nodded and said, "Then be careful." "I'll be fine," Lin Yi said indifferently. Then Kong Ming Ming came in, and behind him were the heirs and the people from the heirs sections. These people were also going to follow the inheritor into the Five Evils Dragon Cave to protect the inheritor. Although Boss Bai wasn't here, Tian Chan was there to protect Guan Xin. When everyone was present, Kong Ming Ming and Pin Liang led the participants to a safe place to hide. Before they left, Kong Ming Ming said, "The strongest person under the heavenly Tao will be counting on you later. In order to avoid affecting your performance, we'll hide first. When the time comes, you can lure out the dragon of Five Evils by yourself." Lin Yi sneered. He signaled for Xinyan and Han Jingjing to hide with Xiao Ran. Xiao Ran clearly didn't fit in with Pin Liang's group, so he hid further away. Lin Yi wasn't worried about his character, so he let Xinyan and Han Jingjing hide there. The cave of the Five Evils dragon was a little steep, and Tian Chan and the heirs prepared to hide at the side of the cave. Once Lin Yi lured out the dragon of Five Evils, she'd bring the heirs in. Although what Lin Yi was about to do was a little dangerous, Tian Chan wasn't too worried. After all, she and Lin Yi were on good terms. It wasn't the first time they'd met the dragon of Five Evils, so they were quite familiar with it. Lin Yi made arrangements for Xinyan and Han Jingjing before jumping up. There was still some distance between them and the cave, so Lin Yi couldn't see what was going on inside. He didn't know if the dragon of Five Evils had noticed them or not. The dragon of Five Evils was very intelligent, and it liked to play tricks on people. As a result, Lin Yi wasn't sure if it sensed people coming or not. Was it planning on toying with them later? Tian Chan followed closely behind Lin Yi. She went up the platform, and the other heirs followed behind her, going up the platform. These are the people closest to Lin Yi, so Lin Yi didn't lure out the dragon of Five Evils straight away. He wanted to wait for them to come up and settle down before doing so. Meng Yao, Yushu, and Xiao Xiao all went up, and now it was Tang Yun's turn. She saw Lin Yi, but she couldn't recognize him. She was very conflicted, and when she got to the platform, she slipped and fell. She was a sky class and wouldn't be injured from falling, but she still jumped in fright. Lin Yi was watching the heirs go up the platform, and when he saw Tang Yun fall, he subconsciously reached out to grab her, preventing her from falling. It was an unintentional action, but when Tang Yun's hand was grabbed by Lin Yi's heart started pounding. It was a familiar feeling. Feeling the coldness of Tang Yun's hand, Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. It was as if they'd held hands in a past life. Lin Yi didn't want to let go. Lin Yi looked at Tang Yun, stunned. Tang Yun's face was red, and her hand was caught by Lin Yi. She couldn't pull it out, but she didn't want to either. Tang Yun wanted time to stop right there. She wanted the world to be left with only her and Lin Yi and no one else. But she knew that it was just a fantasy, not realistic. She hadn't broken through to full circle, and she couldn't recognize Lin Yi yet. She just had to endure a little longer. Maybe it would be soon. Ahem. Sydney, who was behind Tang Yun, couldn't help coughing. She didn't want anything to happen to Tang Yun at such a crucial moment. Tang Yun woke up from her thoughts and subconsciously wanted to pull her hand out from Lin Yi's hand, but the ring on Tang Yun's hand scratched Lin Yi's palm. Lin Yi let go and saw the ring on Tang Yun's ring finger. Lin Yi was stunned. Usually, a woman would only wear a ring on her ring finger after getting engaged or married, but Tang Yun as an heir, was wearing a ring. This made Lin Yi a little confused. However, when the ring was reflected in Lin Yi's eyes, Lin Yi's mind went blank, as if something was attacking his brain. Countless memory fragments, at this moment, rushed into Lin Yi's brain. The messy memory fragments instantly filled Lin Yi's brain. The barbecue stall on the food street, the girl under the shade of the tree in the afternoon, the girl who accompanied him back home, the tolerant girlfriend. Lin Yi grabbed Tang Yun's hand once more. Those messy memories slowly formed into a complete set of memories, becoming clearer and clearer in his mind. Those beautiful memories formed a happy love history. Chapter 35:10. Was it his past life? But the time, place, and people were all in this life. This ring left a deep impression on Lin Yi. This was the first time Lin Yi bought a ring in the mall, and he gave it to his first girlfriend. His thoughts seemed to return to the night when he established his relationship with Tang Yun. Tang Yun was kidnapped by Zhong Pingliang and Zhang Naipeo, and Lin Yi saved her. It was also that night that Tang Yun's impression of Lin Yi changed drastically. If it wasn't for Zhong Pingliang, Lin Yi wouldn't have been able to piece these trivial memories together so quickly. But with Zhong Pingliang's help, it was much easier for Lin Yi. In addition, when he first bought this ring, Lin Yi had a deep impression of it. He bought it at a place called Lu Weishan Jewelry Store, and there was another jewelry store salesgirl who sneered at him. Later, when he went to Lu Weishan to get pure topaz, he felt that the name Lu Weishan was very familiar. It felt like déjà vu, but he didn't remember it at the time. Now it seemed that it was because he had bought the jewelry from the shop. This group of fragmented memories slowly intertwined, and it made Lin Yi remember a lot. But why did Tang Yun go to Snow Valley? Why didn't Lin Yi have this memory? Lin Yi remembered the previous memories, but there was nothing after that. Tang Yun seemed to have disappeared in a thin air, directly went to Snow Valley, and left Lin Yi's life. But this shouldn't be possible. Why did Tang Yun suddenly leave? Did someone force her? But did she have no other choice? And why did he forget Tang Yun? It was as if this person had never appeared in his life. Although, there were some memory gaps, but before, Lin Yi didn't suspect too much. After all, losing memories was too strange, but now it seemed that it really happened to Lin Yi. And why? He didn't have Tang Yun's memory, and Tang Yun didn't seem to recognize him. Why was it that Meng Yao, Yu Shu, and even Xiao Xiao never mentioned Tang Yun to him? Could it be that everyone had collectively lost their memories? That didn't seem right. It was almost as if Mrs. Tang hadn't lost her memory. Otherwise, why would Mrs. Tang treat her so well, always giving him good things and helping him time and time again? At that time, Lin Yi was a little confused. He thought that Mrs. Tang was a good person, but when he recalled her personality, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Perhaps Mrs. Tang only treated him this way. Yin Yin, Lin Yi tried calling her name. Tang Yun's body trembled. She raised her head in disbelief and looked at Lin Yi. Did Lin Yi think of something? At this moment, her heart was conflicted. She hoped that Lin Yi would think of her, but she was also afraid that it would affect his cultivation. Yin Yin, you remember me, right? Lin Yi saw Tang Yun's reaction and immediately confirmed that Tang Yun remembered him. Otherwise, she wouldn't have such a big reaction. If someone she didn't know called her that, she would only show some confusion and confusion. She wouldn't be this excited. Mr. Lin, you've got the wrong person. Tang Yun took a deep breath and said faintly, Lin Yi, please behave yourself. This is the heir of Snowy Valley. Don't touch her, or I won't be polite. Sydney spoke up as well, warning Lin Yi. This was a crucial moment for Tang Yun to break through to sky-class perfection. If Lin Yi disturbed her emotions, it would be a huge sin. Lin Yi looked at Sydney coldly. You think you can threaten me? You can ask Kong Mingming. Even Elder Xianxian wouldn't dare to talk to me like this. You. Sydney's breath stopped. Seeing that Kong Mingming didn't respond, she couldn't help but feel annoyed. Indeed, with Lin Yi's strength, he was basically invincible under the heavenly Tao. However, Lin Yi's life was saved by Snowy Valley. Thinking of this, Sydney frowned and said to Lin, "Young hero Lin, can I have a word with you?" Oh, Lin, he didn't want to have a word with her, but looking at Sydney, he didn't want to offend her. After all, her relationship with Tang Yun was not bad. There might be some hidden story, so he nodded and said, "All right." Lin Yi followed Sydney to a cliff not far away. Although Kong Ming Ming saw it, he didn't say anything. Lin Yi would die sooner or later anyway. So what if he died earlier or later? Young hero Lin, you must have remembered something, right? Shueli let out a sigh. She knew that the Heartless Herb's medicinal liquid was effective for ordinary cultivators, but it was ineffective for those who had reached the heaven-level great completion. As long as there was an opportunity, one could recover their memory. Since Lin Yi was already a master of this level, Sydney wasn't surprised that he could remember. That's right. Why is Tang Yun in Snowy Valley? What's going on? I hope you can give me a reasonable explanation. Lin Yi said, although your current strength is enough to look down on Snowy Valley, I still have to say that you and Tang Yun had a deal with Snowy Valley. I don't want you to break the deal after you have the strength. Shueli said, although the strong are respected in the world of cultivation, at least we helped you before. Moreover, Tang Yun agreed to the deal willingly. Meng Yao and Yushu were there too, and they didn't object, so, all right, tell me what happened. Sydney's words made Lin Yi even more surprised. Meng Yao and Yushu knew about it too, and it was a deal. Tang Yun was willing. Back then, you were possessed and needed the ice spirit fruit, but Meng Yao's family had some problems and couldn't take out that much money. So, Tang Yun accepted Snowy Valley's inheritance at that time, and we used him as a condition to solve the problem for you. Sydney said simply, don't you remember that you were possessed? Oh, Lin Yi fell in a deep thought. Indeed, that was the second time he opened the stone door after he returned to West Star Village. He was prepared to use the method on the stone door to refine his body, but in the end, he was possessed. Chapter 35:11. Now that he thought about it, it turned out that he didn't resolve his chi deviation by himself, but Shuigu helped him. So that was how Tang Yun stayed in Shuigu. Thinking of this, Lin Yi sighed. Sydney was right, Shuigu was kind to him, but Lin Yi didn't understand. Tang Yun is already an inheritor. I naturally won't force her to give up. In fact, Meng Yao, Yushu, and Yuning all went to their sects to become practitioners with my permission. What are you guarding against? Why do you want me to forget Tang Yun? What did you do to me? Our Shuigu's mantra is different from other sects. Not all inheritors have the same mantra. Sydney said, Shuigu cultivates the heartless mantra. It needs to be heartless in order to break through to heaven full cycle. Although inheritors don't have any barriers, if their mantra can't break through, it's useless. Our original idea was to let Tang Yun forget you, and then let her cultivate the heartless mantra, but Tang Yun was afraid that you would bear the pain of parting, so she gave you the heartless grass to drink, so you forgot her. This way, she could bear the pain of love alone and slowly cultivate. Because you forgot her, she didn't think about you anymore, so she could cultivate smoothly. Right now, Tang Yun is only left with the last step. Although you remember her, I hope you won't disturb her and let her smoothly ascend to heaven realm great perfection. Otherwise, it will affect the entire inheritance plan and the heaven realm island plan. I see. Lenny took a deep breath and nodded. Okay, for the sake of the big picture, I cannot disturb her. But once she advances to the great perfection of the heaven rank, can we recognize each other? Yes. Sydney hesitated, but didn't reject because she knew that even if she wanted to, Lin Yi wouldn't agree. Lin Yi's question was only out of respect for her. Moreover, Tang Yun had advanced to heaven full cycle. The next step was to advance to heaven Dao, and when that time came, it was unknown how she would advance. Therefore, Sydney didn't think too much about it. Okay, Lin Yi replied. He glanced at Tang Yun from the corner of his eyes. He really wanted to hug Tang Yun in his arms. She was such a good girl. In order to not let Lin Yi suffer, she endured the pain herself. Lin Yi really wanted to tell her that he really missed her and that she had suffered during this period of time. However, he had promised Sydney. However, he couldn't do that. Take Tang Yun away. I'm going to lure the dragon of 5 demons. Sydney nodded and walked towards Tang Yun's direction without saying anything. Tang Yun had been waiting anxiously for the result. She didn't know what Sydney and Lenny talked about, and she didn't use her sky-class senses. If she did, Sydney would definitely feel it. But, although Tang Yun didn't know what Sydney and Lenny talked about, it was obvious that they had come to an agreement. Tang Yun sighed and left with Sydney. The most disappointed were Xiao Xiao, Meng Yao, and Yu Shu. They were all hoping that Lin, Yi, and Tang Yun would reunite. Yu Shu and Xiao Xiao had discussed it, and they were ready to shout, "Together, together, together!" But Sydney and Lin Yi didn't give them that chance. Lin Yi walked towards the dragon of 5 demons cave, while Tian Chan organized the inheritors to the side of the cave. He tiptoed into the cave, and Lin Yi realized that the dragon of 5 demons already knew what was going on outside. It was staring at the cave, and when it saw Lin Yi, it yawned in surprise. "Roar! Why are you here? Why can't it be me?" Lin Yi smiled bitterly. "Why is it always you?" The dragon of 5 demons asked. Lin Yi was speechless. "Do me a favor, give me your cave for a while, and then come out for a walk with me. Let's pretend to fight and fight for 300 rounds. How about that?" "Boring." The dragon of 5 demons shook its head. "I've already touched the path of the heavens, and I have time to study it. I don't want to do something boring." "Senior Ghost, this dragon of 5 demons isn't very obedient. Why don't you come out and teach it a lesson?" Lin Yi started to use the tiger's skin as an excuse. "If you didn't have a powerful backer, I would have thrown you out long ago. Do you think I would be able to talk to you calmly?" The dragon of 5 demons was a little depressed. "All right, stop looking. I'll cooperate with you. You really have nothing better to do." Actually, I have a presumptuous request. Later, I'll give you some blood, and you'll give me some blood. How about that?" Lin Yi asked shamelessly. "You're asking for a yard after giving me an inch, aren't you?" The dragon of 5 demons stared at Lin Yi angrily. "Senior Ghost, it won't give it to me," Lin Yi said. "What else can you do besides calling for your backer?" The dragon of 5 demons was even more depressed. "All right, I'll give it to you, all right? Thank you." Lin Yi chuckled. In fact, the senior ghost was sleeping, and it couldn't care less about something as trivial as Lin Yi's. As long as it wasn't a matter of life and death for Lin Yi, it would normally be in a state of hibernation. It wouldn't even communicate with Lin Yi, let alone teach the dragon of 5 demons a lesson. However, the dragon of 5 demons didn't know the relationship between Lin Yi and the ghost. It was afraid that Lin Yi would really call the ghost out and scare it, so it agreed to Lin Yi's request. "All right, let's pretend to fight. I'll be injured, and you give me some blood. Then, I'll pretend to be defeated and run away. When you're done with the cave, I'll come back," the dragon of 5 demons said to Lin Yi. "Okay." Lin Yi nodded in satisfaction. There was an angry roar, and Lin Yi came running out of the dragon's cave. Behind him was a dragon that was chasing after him. Lin Yi didn't know what Lin Yi had done to offend it, but it looked like it was going crazy. Seeing that the Pinta-Bane dragon had run out of the cave, Tian Chan quickly led the inheritors into the Pinta-Bane dragon's cave. Then, according to Tian Chan's instructions, each of the inheritors occupied a spot in the Pinta-Bane dragon's cave. Then, they began to circulate the mantra and strengthen their inheritance. They also prepared to resist the pressure of the other Pinta-Bane Chis and prepared to break through. Behind them were people from the sect protecting them. Tian Chan, on the other hand, was there to protect Guan Xin, as well as to coordinate the overall situation. Lin Yi ran out of the cave and led the dragon of 5 demons towards Kong Ming Ming. As he ran, Lin Yi shouted, "The dragon of 5 demons is here. Everyone, prepare for battle." Chapter 35:12. Kong Xiaoming saw Lin Yi's dragon of 5 malevolence, and a cold smile flashed on his face. "Lin Yi, I've had enough of you. Let's see if you'll die today." I couldn't kill you in the common world, so I had to compromise and force a smile in front of you. But this time you're dead. Don't move, everyone. Lin Yi is the #1 under the heavenly Tao, the #1 wandering practitioner. Let him handle this on his own. We'll just be causing trouble if we go. Kong Ming Ming smiled coldly at the other participants. All right, everyone nodded in agreement. This was a great thing. They didn't need to waste any energy. They could just stay here and get experience. Who wouldn't want that? As for Lin Yi's life or death, what did that have to do with them? They all had the same thought, but Xiao Ran, on the other hand, was nervous as he watched Lin Yi. He wanted to jump out and help. Heroines, will young hero Lin be able to handle it alone? Why don't we go help him? Xiao Ran suggested after some hesitation. It might piss off Kong Ming Ming's group, but he couldn't just ignore it. After all, Lin Yi had stood up for him before. Lin Yi bro should be able to handle it. We don't have to worry. Han Jingjing shook her head. We'll just be causing trouble for him if we go. Ah, I see. Xiao Ran blinked, but Xin Yan nodded. He didn't say anything else. He was an outsider, after all, and these two people close to Lin Yi had said so. He had no choice but to let it go, though he still looked at Lin Yi nervously. Liang bro, we'll stick to our plan. Once Lin Yi loses, you deal with Xin Yan, and I'll deal with that Xiao Ran. Leave Han Jingjing for my wife to torture. Kong Ming Ming said. No problem. Zhong Pinliang nodded. It wasn't easy for him to have a chance to turn things around, so he naturally wouldn't let it go. Actually, at the end of the day, the hatred between him and Lin Yi wasn't that big. It was just that small incident at school. It was just that it had been fermented and upgraded step by step to where it was today. Facing Lin Yi had become an obsession. Defeating Lin Yi had become his goal. He refused to accept it. Why were they all classmates? Why was his fortuitous encounter not bad? Climbing to the peak step by step, becoming the ancestor of the everyday and everyday sect, how could he not be a match for Lin Yi? Why? He wanted to prove his Tao. He wanted to make a comeback. He wanted to step on Lin Yi and prove that he was the most powerful existence. At the thought, Pin Liang swore to himself. He had to make this trial become Lin Yi's burial ground. However, he watched as Lin Yi and the Dragon of 5 Malevolence fought for a long time without any results. It was as if the Dragon of 5 Malevolence couldn't do anything to Lin Yi. Kong Ming Ming was getting anxious, but he could see that Lin Yi's steps were very precise. Every time the Dragon of 5 Malevolence was about to hit Lin Yi, but Lin Yi dodged it quickly. This wasn't the way to go on. Although Lin Yi's chi would definitely dry up after a long time, the problem was that Lin Yi was a sky-class full-circle master. Even if he ran here for a month, he wouldn't be able to recover. Even if he ran here for a month, his stamina wouldn't dry up. With that thought, Kong Ming Ming was a little depressed. If he waited for 3 days, the inheritor would have already left. Lin Yi wouldn't be finished by then. If this continued, how could he kill Lin Yi? No, this isn't a solution. Kong Ming Ming said, Liang bro, do you have any good ideas? What else can we do? We can't just help the Dragon of 5 Malevolence attack Lin Yi, right? Pin Liang shook his head. If you think it's possible, then we'll go and attack Lin. That won't work. Kong Ming Ming shook his head. This was a matter of principle. If they didn't control the Dragon of 5 Malevolence and let it return to the cave, disturbing the inheritor or injuring the inheritor, then Kong Ming Ming would have to bear a huge responsibility. However, Kong Ming Ming's eyes lit up after hearing Pin Liang's words. He immediately came up with a plan. We can't help the Dragon of 5 Malevolence attack Lin Yi openly, but we can play dirty tricks in the dark. Play dirty tricks in the dark. Pin Yang paused. That's right, we can kill Lin Yi's woman first, distract Lin Yi, and then he'll be distracted, giving the Dragon of 5 Malevolence a chance. Kong Ming Ming said. That's a good idea. Then, who do we kill first? Pin Yang nodded. To be honest, it was a little shameful to lay a hand on a woman. He was the ancestor of the everyday and everyday sect, after all, and doing something like that wasn't very appropriate. Let's kill Wang Xinyan first. Leave that Han Jingjing to my wife, Little 11, and we'll kill her together. Kong Xiaoming's eyes flashed with viciousness. Lin Yi had made Little 11 look like a ghost. And every night when they did it, Kong Xiaoming had to turn off the lights, not daring to look straight at him. All right. Pin Liang nodded and looked at Nai Peo. Pal, I'll leave this woman to you. She'll be a great tonic for you. But you're already a perfected master. There's not much use to her chi. It's a waste. It's fine. I'll just treat it as a game. Nai Peo said faintly before walking over to Wang Xinyan. Hey, Wang Xinyan, right? I'm Zhang Nai Peo, and I know you and I have nothing against you. And you're quite pretty, but you're Lin Yi's woman, you know? If you die, you can only blame yourself for finding the wrong man. Xinyan looked at Nai Peo, stunned. You're going to kill me? Nai Peo was speechless. Where did this woman get her sky-class perfected strength from? Why was she no different from a weak girl? He said helplessly, That's right. I'm going to use my practitioner's arts and suck your strength dry. Don't resist if you don't want the pain, or you'll suffer even more. Xinyan paused again. What practitioner's arts are you using? Wasp absorption arts. Nai Peo said proudly. Oh, Xinyan nodded. Then, can I use my practitioner's arts as well? Of course you can, but if you use your practitioner's arts to defend against it, it'll only drain your chi faster. Nai Peo said. Plus, once you use it, you won't be able to stop. Oh, then, what if I accidentally hurt you? Xinyan nodded, a little nervous. Chapter 35:13. Pow, don't waste time talking to her. Just kill her. Pin Yang frowned. All right. Nai Peo nodded without hesitation. Hey, what's so great about bullying a girl? Xiao Ran couldn't take it anymore. I'm telling you, don't be a busybody. I'll kill you if you keep this up. Nai Peo pointed at Xiao Ran as he threatened fiercely. He used to be Pin Liang's follower back in school, and his words were no different from a gangster's. It had been a while since Xiao Ran heard someone curse at him. He was speechless. Still, he said, the purpose of this test is to protect the inheritor. We're all fighting against the 5 malefic dragon together. It's not a place for some people to vent their anger. Oh, go ahead if you want to fight. I won't stop you. Nai Peo curled his lips, but if you dare try, you'll die. Xiao Ran, let me try. I haven't fought anyone since I broke through to sky-class perfection. I want to gain some experience. Xinyan said. Xiao Ran paused, then suddenly remembered that Xinyan was a sky-class full mastery as well. He thought she was just a weak girl before. He couldn't help but smile bitterly at the thought, but since Xinyan had already said so, he couldn't really interfere. He nodded. All right, be careful then. I heard that Zhang Nai Peo's practitioner's arts are filled with evil energy. Okay, Xinyan nodded. All right, I'll be careful. Nai Peo was speechless. The ignorant were fearless, after all. He didn't know how Xinyan got a sky-class perfection, but why did she look like she didn't know anything? She didn't even know how a practitioner tried to do it. They were both sky-class perfection, but how could they be the same? The same level, different strength, and different practitioner's arts. Nai Peo started channeling his practitioner's arts, and so did Xinyan. Because she was a woman, Nai Peo didn't want to take advantage of her. He was a eunuch too, after all. Pow, give him a hard one. Pin Yang frowned. Xinyan and Nai Peo were already at each other's throats, but Kong Ming and Pin Liang were a little surprised. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't seem to be affected by Xinyan's actions at all. He only glanced at her once, and then didn't even look at her again. Could it be that he didn't care about Xinyan? That's impossible. That's not realistic. If he doesn't care, why would he bring her along? She didn't care why they had to go against the 5-element sect and the Kong family because of her. If he didn't care, why would he help her raise her strength? Kong Ming and Pin Liang couldn't figure out what was going on. Therefore, Pin Liang told Nai Peo to give Xinyan a hard one. All right, Nai Peo was planning on using his wasp absorption arts to kill Xinyan, but Pin Liang's words left him with no choice but to change his mind and use the chrysanthemum art's mother and the sun chi against Xinyan. It was a little cruel to torture a girl, But Naipeo still had to listen to Pinliang, and so he decided to torture Xinyan to distract Lin Yi. "Put out your hand. Let's exchange palms," Naipeo said to Xinyan. "Oh, okay." Xinyan nodded and put out her hand. And so, Naipeo's and Xinyan's hands met. The way the two fought shocked everyone who was watching. Naipeo was acting cool, and Xinyan was acting cute. It didn't look like a normal fight between practitioners at all. It was like they had discussed it beforehand. But, other than Han Jingjing, everyone could see what would happen to Xinyan. She'd die from having her chi sucked dry, and that was a horrible way to die. Even if she didn't die without strength, she'd still be alive. Even if she didn't die, it was still a fate worse than death. Or, if Naipeo injected his chi into her, she'd be tortured to the point where she wished she was dead. Either way, it was extremely cruel. Xinyan's and Naipeo's palms met, and Naipeo was fully confident that he would be able to inject his chi into Xinyan. But as soon as he channeled his practitioner's arts, he felt that something wasn't right. Although his true chi had successfully entered Wang Xinyan's body, he was surprised to find that his true chi didn't stop. Instead, it continued to flow into Wang Xinyan's body. What was going on? Naipeo's face paled in shock. Why did it have an automatic chi flow reversal? That wasn't right. The practitioner's arts he was channeling was the wasp absorption arts, and he could only get a small amount of chi into Xinyan's body. It couldn't be flowing like this. His practitioner's arts didn't have this function. What was wrong with it? Xinyan didn't think that her Nanming arts would actually work, and started absorbing chi from Naipeo's body. Xinyan was a sky-class late-phase peak now, and this chi wasn't very useful to her, but it didn't affect her absorption. Naipeo's face paled as he tried to stop the practitioner's arts, but it was just like what he said before. He couldn't stop it at all. In actuality, it was Naipeo's unluck. If it weren't for Pinliang telling him to go hard on Xinyan, he would have used his wasp absorption arts on her already. But the wasp absorption arts and Nanming arts were both derived from the same practitioner's arts, and they were on par with each other. Neither of them could do anything to the other. This meant that no one would be able to absorb the other's chi, and the two would be immune to each other. But now it was different. Naipeo was injecting his chi into Xinyan, and now he was falling for Xinyan's Nanming arts. The pure chi in his body kept flowing into Xinyan's body, and he couldn't stop it even if he wanted to. Naipeo's face was very ugly, but he couldn't do anything about it. Of course, Pinliang and the others didn't know what was going on. They only saw Xinyan and Naipeo exchanging palms, and while Naipeo's face wasn't looking too good, they thought that he was trying his best to neutralize Xinyan's chi. But slowly, they realized that something wasn't right. Xinyan's face had been calm the whole time, but Naipeo's face wasn't right at all. Not only was he pale, but beads of sweat were dripping down his forehead. Chapter 35:14. Naipeo's chi was depleting heavily, and he was gritting his teeth as he tried to fight it off, try to slow down the absorption, and think of a way to escape. He couldn't speak at all, but he didn't want Pinliang to worry. Not good. Wang Xinyan knows the wasp absorption arts as well. Naipeo's chi leaked out as he spoke, and the defense in his body was broken. The chi rushed towards Xinyan, and not long after, he fell to the ground. Pinliang paused when he heard that Xinyan knew the wasp absorption arts as well, but before he could react, Naipeo was already on the ground. Xinyan was kind and merciful. She didn't kill Naipeo straight away. She knew that Naipeo was an enemy, but she'd never killed someone with her own hands before. She couldn't bring herself to do it, and so she let Naipeo go, sparing his life. Pow! Pinliang panicked as he ran over and picked Naipeo up, taking out a pill and shoving it into Naipeo's mouth. Naipeo swallowed the pill and rolled his eyes, barely managing to keep his life. Xinyan had been merciful before, but a sky-class late-phase peak using the Nanming arts was too powerful, and she didn't want to do that. Naipeo, on the other hand, couldn't take it and almost died. But even with his life, Naipeo had lost all of his strength. He'd become a cripple who wasn't even a golden class. Bro, I'm done. Naipeo's face was pale. I can't go to Sky Class Island anymore. What? You're done? Pingyang was shocked. One had to know that Naipeo was an important part of the Sky Class Island. If he were to die, then Sky Class Island wouldn't be opened, and no one would be able to break through to Sky Class. When the time came, he was an important protector for Tag and Dragon, as important as an inheritor. Although Naipeo wasn't here, if Tag and Dragon had been a bit stronger, then this plan might have worked. But the problem was that Tag and Dragon wasn't very strong. Even though he had Patriarch Xuanqin's help and nurturing, he had not yet recovered. He had already smoothly advanced to the great perfection of the Heaven rank and could be used as one of the most important pawns in the Heaven rank Islands plan. But because of his previous injury, although it had healed, Tag and Dragon had lost his sharpness and perseverance. If that was the case, during the process of opening the Heavenly Step Island, there would be a lot of problems. If Tagon Long couldn't hold on and Naipeo couldn't protect him, then he'd be done for. Pinliang may have a grudge against Lin Yi, but he was also the Mad Dragon Elder of the Everyday and Everyday sect. He naturally knew how important Naipeo was to this plan. If Naipeo wasn't here, would the Xianxun Elder go crazy? Thinking of this, Pinliang couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. He didn't expect Xinyan to be able to cripple Naipeo. That's right, this Wang Xinyan knows the wasp absorption arts as well, and she's no weaker than me. Naipeo said seriously, Why, you're courting death. Pinliang was furious. If the plan was ruined, then they'd all die together. He raised the golden dragon whip in his hand. He was ready to use his strongest technique, Mad Dragon Tail, to kill Xinyan to vent his anger. Wait! Kong Ming Ming suddenly yelled. Pinliang frowned and looked at Kong Ming Ming unhappily. Assistant Kong, what's the meaning of this? What are you doing? Don't kill her. She's useful. Kong Ming Ming said quickly. What do you mean? It's you who wants to kill her, but it's also you who doesn't. What are you doing? Pinliang raged. With Naipeo crippled, the Heaven Rank Island plan will be greatly affected. But since Xinyan also knows the wasp absorption arts, she can also absorb the demonic energy in the 5 Malice Chi and protect Tag and Dragon and the other inheritors. Kong Ming Ming said. HM. Pinliang paused, but it made sense after thinking about it. Zhang Naipeo's role was like that, and so was Xinyan's. It wasn't like he couldn't use Xinyan as a replacement, but that way, the Everyday and Everyday sect would go from being the leader to a subordinate sect, and he wouldn't have anything to do. He regretted listening to Zhao Ming and sending Zhang Naipeo to kill Xinyan. Not only did Xinyan fail, but Zhang Naipeo was the one who'd killed her. All right, I'll keep her alive. But Lin Yi can't be kept alive. Pinliang was determined as well. He was going to kill Lin Yi himself. Mad Dragon Fury was Pinliang's ultimate skill, able to force weaker cultivators to submit to him. Of course, it could also force spirit beasts to submit to him. But whether or not it worked on dragons, Pinliang wasn't sure. He was going to pressure the dragon of 5 evils, provoking its rage. The battle between Lin Yi and the dragon of 5 fiends seemed intense, but a closer look would reveal that it was more like an eagle chasing a chick. One was chasing, and the other was running. Neither of them seemed to be serious. The dragon of 5 evils didn't, and neither did Lin Yi. As such, Lin Yi could maintain his chi until the inheritor's blessing ended, and there wouldn't be any results. If he wanted the dragon of 5 evils to kill Lin Yi, he had to make it angry. Spirit beasts like this had a temper, and it was fine if you didn't piss it off, but once you did, it would retaliate like a storm. And so, Pinliang decided to pressure the dragon of 5 evils a little, provoking its rage and letting it kill Lin Yi. The dragon of 5 evils was a type of dragon, but it was a mutated one. It wasn't a real dragon anymore, and so Pinliang was confident in pressuring it. After all, he was the real dragon's practitioner's arts. Mad Dragon Fury, Dragon Totem. Pinliang took a step forward and yelled. The whip was like a raging dragon, flashing with a golden light as it lashed at the dragon of 5 demons. The head of the whip was like a dragon breathing fire, and even the thick skin of the dragon of 5 demons couldn't help but feel like it was being barbecued. Pinliang took a step forward and roared. Pinliang roared, and the image of a dragon totem appeared behind him. For double insurance, Pinliang used Mad Dragon Fury and the dragon totem at the same time, aiming to make the dragon of 5 evils submit. Chapter 35:15. The dragon only looked like a dragon. Perhaps it had some ancient genes in it, but it wasn't a dragon. It couldn't fight against Pinliang's dragon totem at all. It wasn't willing, but there was nothing it could do. This wasn't just the fear of the dragon totem. It was also the natural pressure of the spirit beasts. It was too strong, and it couldn't fight back. Ha 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 ha! Pinliang laughed maniacally. As far as he was concerned, the dragon of 5 fiends wouldn't have a high IQ after being pestered by Lin Yi nonstop. Pinliang assumed that the dragon of 5 fiends would feel humiliated after being pressured and would attack Lin Yi in a frenzy. Lin Yi didn't understand what was going on. What was Pinliang trying to do? Was he trying to help him? After seeing Nai Peo crippled by Wang Xinyan, was he trying to get on his good side and help him fight the dragon of 5 evils? It wasn't very likely, but this was a good chance for Lin Yi to cover up. He and the dragon of 5 evils had discussed this before, and they were going to find a chance to pretend that the dragon of 5 evils couldn't win and let Lin Yi stab it to get some of its blood. But right now, Lin Yi was running in front, and the dragon of 5 evils was chasing from behind. Lin Yi didn't have a chance to counterattack. If he cheated, it would look too fake, and Lin Yi wouldn't be able to do it. This was a golden opportunity. Lin Yi saw the dragon of 5 evils lying on the ground, and quickly took out a small knife and bottle from his jade space. He stabbed the dragon's leg and let out some blood, filling up the bottle. Roar! The dragon of 5 evils pretended to be in pain and roared. Pinliang was stunned as well. He didn't expect this. Lin Yi was stabbing the dragon of 5 evils with a knife? Was Lin Yi trying to slay a dragon? Was he trying to defy the heavens? It was already good enough to fight the dragon of 5 evils, but slaying a dragon was just a pipe dream. But this was good too. Pinliang was worried that the dragon of 5 wrath wouldn't get angry. Not only did it get pressured, Lin Yi even gave a stab. It wouldn't be the king of spirit beasts if it didn't go on a rampage. You won't die if you don't court death. If you hadn't stabbed him, you might not have died. Now that you've stabbed him, you're going to die. That will be death for sure. However, the 5 evils dragon skin was really thick and tough. When Lin Yi stabbed it with his saber earlier, the 5 evils dragon skin was really thick and tough. He had already used the full power of the peak late stage of heaven rank and only managed to make a small wound. This was not a beast that ordinary cultivators could deal with. At the thought of this, Zhong Pingliang quickly stopped the circulation of violent dragon power. Because Lin Yi was still within close range of the dragon of 5 evils. Once this pressure disappeared, Lin Yi would probably be sent flying with a single slap, right? Waha! After Zhong Pingliang stopped, he looked at Lin Yi proudly, imagining Lin Yi being tortured to death by the dragon of 5 evils. However, the scene he imagined didn't happen. The dragon of 5 evils stood up. It didn't attack Lin Yi, but with a whoosh. Instead, it turned around and attacked Zhong Pingliang, who was standing not far away. Zhong Pingliang jumped in fright. He didn't expect the dragon of 5 evils to attack him instead of Lin Yi. He was scared out of his wits and quickly ran away. And so, the dragon of 5 evils that was chasing Lin Yi became chasing Zhong Pingliang. Zhong Pingliang was depressed. What the hell was going on? The dragon of 5 evils didn't look very smart. How could it tell that the pressure came from him? And even if it came from him, Lin Yi had stabbed it before. It didn't retaliate against Lin Yi, who was closest to it, but it pounced on Zhong Pingliang, who was not far away. It was unbelievable, but Zhong Pingliang had no choice. How could he reason with it? There was no way to reason with him. Moreover, he did not dare to continue using the violent dragon divine exercise. Although the violent Dragon Divine exercise was effective against experts under Heaven Stage Great Circle, and it was not weak against the Five Evils Dragon. But when he used the violent Dragon Divine exercise, the consumption of his physical strength and true chi was quite large. If he kept using it, then his physical strength and true chi would be quickly exhausted. What if he ran out of chi? Wouldn't he be attacked by the Dragon of Five Evils? Without chi, he wouldn't be able to run even if he wanted to. The pressure of violent dragon power was used to attack during the pressure, but the Dragon of Five Evils was suppressed. Even if it attacked, what use would it be? Who could do anything to it? Didn't they see that Lin Yi, the number one under Heavenly Tao, used all his strength and only managed to make a small wound? This Dragon of Five Evils couldn't be dealt with at all. The elder Xianxian had told him so before. If he couldn't deal with it, then what use was the pressure? Right now, Naipeo was still crippled. If he hadn't been crippled, he could have asked Naipeo to try and see if he could use his wasp absorption arts to suck all the chi out of the dragon's body, making it drop to below golden class. But Naipeo couldn't try it out, and Zhong Pingliang was left alone. Assistant Kong, send someone to help me. Pingliang was sweating profusely. He didn't have Lin Yi's exquisite footwork, and so Lin Yi fighting the Dragon of Five Evils seemed like a joke. But if it was him, he'd be in grave danger. One moment of carelessness, and he'd be hit by the Dragon of Five Evils' claws. Kong Ming Ming was hesitant as well. He couldn't decide if he should help Pin Liang or not, because things had deviated from their original plan. They'd wanted the Dragon of Five Evils to deal with Lin Yi, but now it had abandoned Lin Yi and only chased after Pin Liang. Now, if they were to help, it'd mean that they'd be fighting together, and it'd be impossible to kill Lin Yi. Lin Yi, why aren't you helping? Don't you want to help? Kong Ming Ming rolled his eyes and called out to Lin Yi. I've been working hard all this time, and I'm tired. I need a rest. Lin Yi said faintly, if you don't help, I'll assume that you're not stopping. Kong Ming Ming said, oh, all right, I'll give it a try. Lin Yi nodded, smiling coldly in his heart. You forced my hand. I wasn't planning on attacking Little 11 in the test, since everyone was targeting the Dragon of Five Evils. If Lin Yi had targeted Little 11 alone, it'd be too obvious. But now, it seemed like Lin Yi wasn't planning on letting Little 11 go. If Kong Ming Ming wasn't being nice, then Lin Yi couldn't blame him. Chapter 35:16. Roar. The Dragon of Five Evils roared at Lin Yi as if it was annoyed, but Lin Yi knew it. Lin Yi ran and pretended to chase after the Dragon of Five Evils. At this time, the Dragon of Five Evils seemed to be a little afraid of Lin Yi. Seeing the dagger in Lin Yi's hand, it didn't dare to get close. What the hell was going on? Wasn't the Dragon of Five Evils chasing Lin Yi? Why was it Lin Yi chasing the Dragon of Five Evils now? This Dragon of Five Evils was so cowardly. Was it afraid of Lin Yi after being stabbed? But he had been suppressing it for a long time. Why was it not hurt at all? It even dared to chase after him? Pin Liang thought gloomily. However, he was afraid of the Dragon of Five Evils. Naturally, he ran towards Kong Ming Ming, where there were more people. This saved Lin Yi the trouble of pretending to chase after him. Kong Ming Ming was shocked and quickly said to everyone, "Get ready to fight." As soon as he finished speaking, the Dragon of Five Evils suddenly sped up and rushed in front of him. Fortunately, Kong Ming Ming was a cunning person. As soon as he finished speaking, he dodged, and the Dragon of Five Evils grabbed Little 11, who was next to Kong Ming Ming. Ah! Little 11 exclaimed. She didn't expect the Dragon of Five Evils to come so suddenly. Kong Ming Ming, save me. In fact, even if Kong Ming Ming didn't run, the Dragon of Five Evils wouldn't have caught him. It was following Lin Yi's order to catch Little 11. But Kong Ming Ming didn't know that. He was shocked when he saw Little 11. Luckily, he ran fast, or else he would have been caught. Save Little 11? Kong Ming Ming wouldn't do anything. Previously, he had concocted pills for her, because the Five Elements sect had enough energy stones to replenish his physical strength and true chi, so he could concoct pills indefinitely. Moreover, he didn't have to spend any money on the materials. He wanted to curry favor with Ancestor Xianxian while he was at it, but to ask him to risk his life to save the 11th? What a joke. Kong Ming didn't dare to do it, but on the surface he still shouted, "Hey, that dinosaur, let go of that heroine." The Dragon of Five Evils glanced at Kong Ming coldly. Roar! Kong Ming was so scared that he almost knelt on the ground. Little 11 looked at Kong Ming's cowardly appearance and suddenly felt a little desperate. Her breathing became a little rapid as she struggled to say, "Kong Ming, quickly ask them to save me. If I die, my father, Patriarch Xianxian, will not let you off. Everyone, let's go together. Rush up and kill the Dragon of Five Evils." Xiaoming roared and turned to Pingyang. "Liang bro, hurry up and give the five malefic dragons some more pressure. Make it let little 11 go. My physical strength and true chi are almost used up. The pressure won't last long." Zhong Pingyang said, "I can only do it for 30 seconds at most. Otherwise, it will affect my physical strength and true chi, no matter what." Zhong Pingliang still gave face to Kong Ming. After all, he was the son-in-law of the Five Elements sect's Patriarch Xianxian. Zhong Pingliang couldn't ignore him. However, as soon as Zhong Pingliang finished speaking, the Dragon of Five Evils seemed to be able to hear him. It directly raised its front claws and suddenly spun a few times in the air. Whoosh! It was thrown in Han Jingjing's direction. Ah! Little 11 was sent flying. To be honest, she only had a body full of levels, but she had no strength. She was a cripple whose meridians were all damaged. Even though she had increased her level, her body could not store up the physical strength and true chi, so she could not use the mantra. To be honest, her lifespan could be extended indefinitely. She was similar to Zhang Naipeo now. She still had the level, but she had no strength. Her real strength wasn't even at golden class. So, her head went straight into the soil. There was no protection at all. Half of her body in the soil was unknown. Wah! There's a monster! Han Jingjing suddenly had 2 silver needles in her hands. She directly inserted them into little 11's legs. Originally, Han Jingjing wanted to insert herself in the middle, but she still didn't do it. She was not a vicious person. Although little 11 was very cruel to her in the past, it was impossible for Han Jingjing to be the same as little 11. Han Jingjing directly burned the silver needles with 2 elixir flames. Little 11's legs immediately trembled. Obviously, she wasn't dead. She was still alive. The high temperature of the Dan fire passed through the silver needles to the meridians under her feet. Especially since her meridians were broken, it spread directly through her body, causing her unbearable pain. "What are you doing?" Kong Ming was a little angry. Pinliang, on the other hand, didn't use Mad Dragon arts anymore. After all, little 11 had been thrown out. There was no need for him to waste his energy. "There's a big monster here with a head like a leg. Jingjing is so scared," Han Jingjing said in a trembling voice. "You." Kong Ming was furious. He laughed coldly. "I wanted little 11 to kill you personally, but I don't think I need to keep you alive anymore. Go to hell. You should be happy to die under my ultimate move." With that, Kong Ming took a step forward. He put his hands together and pushed out, activating his strongest move, Dan Firebomb. Boom dash, a fireball flew towards Han Jingjing's head. This was the ultimate move that Elder Xianxian taught to Kong Ming. He had been preparing to use it against the Dragon of Five Malefic, but he didn't expect to use it on Han Jingjing. This was a move that wasted a lot of energy, but at this moment, Kong Ming didn't care so much. However, at this time, the Dragon of Five Malefic didn't feel the pressure of Pinliang's Mad Dragon arts. After throwing little 11 away, it ran towards little 11 again. When it reached him, it stretched out its front claws and pulled little 11 out of the ground. Boom dash, at this moment, Kong Ming's Dan Firebomb flew over. Kong Ming Ming had calculated that the Dan firebomb would pass above Little Eleven's legs and hit Han Jingjing's head. However, the Dragon of 5 Malefic happened to pull Little 11 out, so the Dan firebomb hit Little 11's abdomen, blowing a huge hole in it. Little 11 let out a blood-curdling screech, and the 5 Bane's dragon happened to raise its front claws in the air. As a result, Little 11's upper and lower body were only connected by a layer of skin and flesh, and his bones had already been shattered. Thus, after just 2 swings, Little 11's upper body was sent flying. Chapter 35:17. The Dragon of 5 Evils also looked at Little 11, who only had half of his body left in his claws, and then he curled his lips and threw Little 11's 2 legs directly at Kong Ming Ming. Kong Ming Ming was dumbfounded at this moment. He didn't expect his alchemic fire bomb to explode on Little 11's body. Then he saw Little 11's upper body fly away, and he was even more frightened. Although Little 11 was killed by the Dragon of 5 Evils, he should be considered an accomplice. He was the one who shot out the alchemic firebomb. After returning, would the Xianxun ancestor blame him? What should he do? Bang! Little 11's 2 legs smashed on Kong Ming Ming's head, and it immediately made him even more dizzy. What should he do? Little 11 would definitely die, but now, how should he deal with the Dragon of 5 Evils? Kong Ming Ming was a little regretful. Wasn't he a scumbag? Why did he let Zhong Pingliang pressure him for no reason? He just let Lin Yi and the Dragon of 5 Evils run around in circles. Now, not only was Little 11 dead, but the Dragon of 5 Evils was also not going to let it go. Fuck. Kong Ming Ming stood up and ran. After killing Little 11, the Dragon of 5 Evils did not attack Han Jingjing, but turned to run towards Kong Ming Ming. Fortunately, Lin Yi did not kill Kong Ming Ming in time. Killing Little 11 was basically the limit that the Xianxun ancestor could bear, but if even Kong Ming Ming was killed, then the Xianxun ancestor would probably go crazy. Lin Yi did not want to affect the opening of Heavenly Island, so he temporarily let Kong Ming Ming stay. Thus, Lin Yi was relieved. In the next time, it was the Dragon of 5 Evils chasing Kong Ming Ming and Zhong Pingliang. Sometimes it chased Kong Ming Ming, and sometimes it chased Zhong Pingliang. Often when they were about to be caught, it would change targets, let them rest, and continue to chase after them. Gradually, Kong Ming Ming and Pingliang understood as well. The dragon was toying with them. However, was the wisdom of the 5 demons dragon really that high? Hey, Dragon of 5 Evils, can you stop for a moment? I really can't take it anymore. For the past 2 days, Kong Ming Ming had been tormented miserably. Instead of attacking others, the dragons of 5 Evils chased after him. Of course, whenever he was exhausted, the Dragon of 5 Rats' target would become Pingliang, and when Pingliang couldn't take it anymore, it would switch to Kong Ming Ming. The cycle would repeat itself over and over again, leaving him helpless. The other trial takers also saw this clearly, so they were naturally happy to be at ease. They all ran to the side and hid, not participating in the fight with them. They just stood at the side as if it had nothing to do with them. Anyway, the Dragon of 5 Evils was just toying with them. No one would die, so why did they have to stand up for them? Moreover, even if he forcefully stood up for them, that required strength as well, and they didn't have the strength to do so. The Dragon of 5 Evils had thick skin and flesh, and was just one step away from understanding the heavenly Tao. It was about to become a spirit. This kind of spirit beast wasn't something that human cultivators like them could fight against. Moreover, didn't they see it earlier? Lin Yi was such a powerful existence. But in the end, Lin Yi used the strength of a great perfection late phase heaven class, and all he did was leave a small wound on the Dragon of 5 Evils. Even if they attacked together, they would probably be exhausted to the point where they wouldn't be able to cause any substantial damage to the Dragon of 5 Evils. Kong Ming Ming had been running for a day and a night, and just as he recovered some strength, he was chased by the Dragon of 5 Evils again. He was about to go crazy as he cursed, Dragon of 5 evils, fuck you. Roar. The dragon of 5 evils understood and quickened its pace. It used its claws to catch Kong Ming Ming, and then said to him, I'll turn you into a mud horse first. With that said, the dragon of 5 evils swung its front claws, and with a whoosh, Kong Ming Ming was smashed into the ground, just like Little 11. Kong Ming Ming thought that after the dragon of 5 evils threw him over, he could just play dead for a while, but he didn't expect to hear rumbling footsteps coming from behind him as soon as he entered the ground. This sound was so shocking, it was obviously the footsteps of the dragon of 5 evils. Kong Ming Ming turned pale with fright. He wasn't Little 11, he could use his strength and chi, and the ground was quite soft. He used a bit of strength to jump out of the ground, and when he raised his head, he saw the dragon of 5 evils right in front of him, ready to slap him with its claws. Kong Ming Ming jumped in fright and hurriedly sped up, dodging the attack, but the dragon of 5 evils didn't seem to have any intention of letting him go and continued to chase after him at full speed. Kong Ming Ming didn't have a choice, and he smiled bitterly in his heart. This dragon of 5 evils was not only intelligent, but it could also understand and speak human language. This meant that the dragon of 5 evils had heard Kong Ming Ming and Zhong Pingliang's plan. No wonder the dragon of 5 evils didn't target anyone else, but only the two of them. Finally, Kong Ming Ming couldn't take it anymore, and he knelt on the ground, panting like a dying dog. The dragon of 5 evils stopped in front of him, looked at him, and didn't attack him. Instead, it ran towards Zhong Pingliang. Zhong Pingliang was sitting on the ground with Zhang Naipeo, recovering his chi. He was the same as Kong Ming Ming, relying on high-level pills like the chi recovery pill to recover chi. In the 5 evils wild, this kind of chi couldn't be used for training. Naipeo, on the other hand, was absorbing the 5 malice chi to train, but while he could absorb it, his training speed was simply too slow. He hadn't even stepped in a golden class yet. He even wanted to find a few people to use the wasp absorption art to absorb Jin Chi, but the wasp absorption art could only be used at the profound phase, and it also had side effects. He couldn't keep absorbing Jin Chi, and he had to have enough time to absorb it every time. Only at Sky Class would he be able to absorb other people's chi as he pleased. This was much weaker than the Naming Divine art. Of course, from a Sky Class perspective, the two were about the same in terms of strength and effect. And so, even if Zhang Naipeo wanted to find someone to absorb chi from, he'd have to wait until he was at Mystic Class. He couldn't even step into Golden Class right now, and the Sky Class Island plan was right in front of him. At this rate, Zhang Naipeo wouldn't be able to make it in time. This made him depressed. One had to know that he'd put in a lot of effort to reach Mystic back when he was at Golden Class. He didn't have Lin Yi's Jade Space, and he didn't have the art of Dragon Mastery. Once he lost his strength, he'd lose all his advantages, and he'd basically be a cripple. Chapter 35:18. Even if he was Pingliang's follower, the everyday sect couldn't focus all their resources on him now that he was no longer an important figure in the Sky Class Island project. Pingliang stood up and continued sprinting, the dragon of 5 fiends chasing after him. But after a while, Pingliang decided to pull a trick. It was too tiring to keep running like this, and so he pretended to fall to the ground from exhaustion. After he fell, he waited for the dragon of fiends to turn around and attack Kong Ming Ming. Kong Ming Ming paused when he saw Pingliang fall. How did he manage to hold on for so long? But then he realized that Pingliang was playing a trick. He was trying to slack off. Kong Ming Ming was pissed off. Was the dragon of fiends going to attack him again? Why hadn't he thought of this before? But just as Kong Ming Ming was getting angry, he saw that the dragon of fiends didn't turn around to attack him. Instead, it reached out with its claws and grabbed Pingliang, roaring, "Don't play dead." If Kong Ming Ming could see the problem, how could the dragon of fiends not? The dragon of 5 fiends swung its claws, and with a swoosh, Pingliang's upper body was buried in the mud. Pingliang wanted to cry. He was trying to slack off, but he got attacked instead. Startled, he quickly crawled out of the mud and continued to run. He did not want to be hit like that again. Pin Liang wanted to curse at the dragon, but he held it in. Cursing the dragon was fun, but his whole family was going to be cremated. Look at Kong Ming Ming, wasn't that the case? His wife was dead, and he almost died as well. This wasn't something he could just curse at. He had no choice but to run for his life. He knew that the Dragon of Fiends was messing with him, but he had to run. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The Five Evils dragon had lost interest in playing. The inheritors had been in its cave for a long time. If they stayed any longer, they wouldn't be able to hold on any longer. The Five Wrath dragons saw the inheritors coming out of the cave and gave up on chasing Kong Ming Ming and Pin Liang. It hurriedly returned to its cave, disappearing without a second glance as it passed by the inheritors. This caused everyone present to be extremely puzzled. This dragon of five evils was truly strange. He actually turned a blind eye to the inheritors' actions of occupying his nest. Kong Ming Ming and Pin Liang fell to the ground, panting heavily. It was too tiring. They had been running nonstop for 3 days. It was as if the two of them were fighting against the dragon of five evils. But who could they blame? They wanted to harm Lin Yi, and their little tricks incurred the wrath of the dragon of five evils. But now it was finally over. Kong Xiaoming looked at the inheritors and stood up. Young Master Tian, I've been waiting for a long time. How are the inheritors on your side? Did they all use the inheritance and successfully break through to perfect perfection? Snow Valley's elder Tang Yun didn't break through to perfect perfection, but the others are fine. Tian Chan felt slightly regretful. Among the inheritors, only Tang Yun failed to break through to perfect perfection. She probably wouldn't be able to try in a short period of time. If she forced herself to try, she might go berserk and cause more damage to her body. So, she had to leave this place first. Tang Yun failed. Kong Ming Ming laughed coldly in his heart. Lin, he might be strong, but his girlfriends were also trash. He looked at Tian Chan and felt slightly regretful. If he had known that the young master of Sky Silkworm sect was a girl, then he wouldn't have pursued Little Peach at all. Why would he pursue Little 11? As long as he wouldn't lick Tian Chan's boots, maybe Tian Chan would really like him. At that time, he would become the son-in-law of the Sky Elixir sect, and he would still be successful. Although it was not bad now, and he could get the Xinshan ancestors' care, Little 11 was far worse than Tian Chan. Sigh, the past was unbearable. Kong Ming Ming didn't want to stay here any longer. He was afraid that the dragon of five evils would return to the cave and come out again. As for whether Tang Yun broke through or not, in Kong Ming Ming's eyes, it didn't matter much anymore. Zhang Naipeo was crippled, and one less inheritor wasn't a big deal. These headaches would be solved by the Xinshan ancestor when he got back. He couldn't solve it. Temporarily failed. I'll think of something when I get back. How's your side? Tian Chan asked faintly. Lin, he looked at the familiar yellow-clothed girl in front of him. It was hard to connect her with the beautiful girl he met in the Five Evils Mountains. At that time, Tian Chan was a cute little girl, but now Tian Chan was the cold and arrogant young master of the Sky Elixir sect. But Tang Yun failed to break through to perfection. This surprised Linny, but he could think of something when he got back. On my side, all the participants broke through to perfection under the pressure of the five evil Shi, but Zhang Naipeo was crippled. Kong Ming Ming was a little depressed. Let's go back and see how he can recover. Tian Chan paused as well. She knew how important Zhang Naipeo was, but she didn't expect him to be crippled as well. This wasn't going to be good, but the most important thing now was to leave this place. And so, Tian Chan said, activate the portal. You take the participants out first. I'll bring up the rear and escort the air. All right. Kong Ming Ming couldn't wait to leave this place. He was overjoyed to go first. Following the method the Xinshan elder taught him, Kong Ming Ming activated the portal in the Five Evils Mountains. Then, he took the lead and rushed into the portal, ignoring everyone else. Behind him, Pin Liang and Naipeo followed closely, and the rest of the heirs left one by one. Lin Yi let Han Jingjing and Xinyan leave first. He was going to wait for Tian Shan and the heirs to leave before he left. These heirs were his closest people, including Tian Shan. She had a complicated relationship with Lin Yi, and so Lin Yi wanted to escort them out. Meng Yao, Xiao Xiao, Yu Shu, Yu Ning, Guan Xian, and Little Nine all looked at Lin Yi as they left. Only Tang Yun had her head lowered, as if she had a lot on her mind. After these people left with the others from the sect, only Lin Yi and Tian Shan were left. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.